with Eamonn Holmes and Isabel Webster.
Leading the news this morning, Rishi Sunak will give the police new tools to stop disruption by groups like Extinction Rebellion and Just Stop Oil. The PM will say that the legislation is aimed at cracking down on guerrilla tactics.
Ministers will push for schools to allow classes for GCSE and A-level pupils if unions announce today that teachers are going on strike.
A 22-year-old man has been arrested on suspicion of attempted murder after the drive-by shooting in central London on Saturday. 4 women and 2 girls have been badly injured.
And yellow weather warnings are in effect this morning across England, Wales, Northern Ireland and Scotland, with snow expected across most of the country.
Look, if that snow is with you, do let us know, because it's not here.
It's a bit of a snow show.
Yeah, snow show. And it's rainy, it's wet. Matter of fact, flooding is going to be a big problem in London.
Yeah, I think it's very wet this morning. Actually, a couple of times driving in, covered the windscreen completely with water. We had to slam the brakes on. So do watch out for lots of standing water this morning. But we want to see your weather pictures. Send in your snow, rain, whatever it might be. Let us know how it is where you are. And don't forget to let us know exactly where you're watching.
And we hope it's not too bad. I have a new way for you to get in touch. You can do that if you want, but the best way to get to me is Eamonn at Eamonn Holmes. No, that's not right. That's not right. What is it? At Eamonn Holmes. Even I didn't know this. At Eamonn Holmes. So then send the messages to me. They'll come on my phone, and then I can read them out.
Direct to the big guy.
Particularly if you have anything to say about Isabel, just send them to me, and it'll be between us. At Eamonn Holmes
He's asking for trouble.
on Twitter. Top story, Isabel, as well.
Yeah, well, Rishi Sunak is today to announce an expansion to police powers that would give officers the ability to stop disruption before it begins.
Right, so in this announcement, he'll say that he's answering calls from police chiefs who are asking for clarity on how to tackle the so-called guerrilla tactics by groups like Extinction Rebellion and Just Stop Oil. Well,
speaking yesterday, the policing minister, Chris Philp, responded to claims that this was a crackdown on the right to protest.
Of course, we, as a government, fully respect the right to protest, but that does need to be properly balanced with the right of the general public to go about their day-to-day lives. And where some of these protesters have been deliberately trying to ruin the lives of their fellow citizens, we think that is not acceptable. But it's possible to protest while at the same time allowing ordinary citizens to go about their daily lives.
OK, well, joining us now to look at this and the other big political stories, former aide to the Chief Secretary of the Treasury. He is Leon Emirali. Good to see you, Leon.
Morning.
Thank you. Look, this whole idea, there'll be a lot of favour from the public saying, yeah, absolutely, we should crack down on this sort of thing. Any danger this could backfire?
Well, it could do, potentially. We don't want to go down the route of America with particularly heavy-handed policing. I think it's important that if people have got a grievance, they are able to protest and show that grievance. But I think it's that level of disruption that stops hard-working people going to work because someone's glued to the motorway or hanging off a bridge. That type of disruption, I think the public want to see a crackdown on, and I think that's what the Prime Minister's aiming for.
The awful phrase, red meat, this is being seen, is it not, as a bit of red meat being dangled to the right of the party from Rishi Sunak. But as you say, is in the front of The Guardian, absolutely infuriated. Rishi Sunak saying over the weekend, the right to protest is fundamental, but not absolute. So he's putting limits on it.
He is, and I think this is part of a concerted effort by Team Rishi to make him look stronger. He's got a bit of an issue with focus groups and polling that think he looks quite weak. And we saw it on the international stage, giving more tanks to Ukraine, trying to look tough. He's doing the same now on a domestic front with giving police more powers to crack down. But yeah, I think there is a bit of a blurred line here where what is the right to protest and how much disruption can we allow?
And how tough is he looking on strikes? I saw over the weekend that his Chancellor is being described as Iron Hunt, which sounds very tough.
Be careful how you say that, Isabel, please.
But when it comes to the teaching strikes, we're expecting to hear the results of a ballot today. A lot of parents will be scarred, traumatised, and indeed the children, more importantly, from what happened during lockdown. Serious concerns about children not getting into classrooms again, not least as we're heading into exam season.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of disruption that kids and young people have been through at school over the past few years, the last thing they need now is a return to that classroom learning, that hybrid learning. It doesn't really work. But having said that, I do think teachers have got a point. We do need to invest in our education system. It's an investment in the country's future, but they have to strike the balance between negotiating in a way that doesn't alienate the public and put children's educations at risk.
I want to ask you also about the gender self-identification laws. It's a big story, this, with constitutional implications. We've seen that Scotland have now decided they want to make it easier for people to self-identify as a different gender. And Rishi Sunak looks, he looks as though he might try and block this legislation. What would that mean? And is he right to do so?
Well, it means trouble for him in Scotland. That's what it means. Why would he bother? Why would he bother getting involved?
It's one of those issues that, to be honest, a lot of people don't necessarily see, aren't necessarily going to impact their daily lives. But it's a change to the cultural, societal fabric that we're all used to. And I think it's one of those issues that people do get quite emotional about. It's an issue that is emotive rather than practical. And I do think he is going to potentially find himself in a few fights in
the SNP are loving this. The SNP are loving the fact that he's going to stand up to them on this. Well, they'll be able to say, look what evil Westminster's doing to us.
That's their playbook, isn't it?
Yeah.
How many times have we seen Nicola Sturgeon basically just doing the opposite to what's going on in Westminster and vice versa? So it plays well for the SNP to have a fight with Westminster, and it plays well for the Conservatives to have a fight with the SNP as well. So it's just a game of party politics, sadly.
Leon, tell me, as regards the strikes, are we getting any sense of a breakthrough with the rail unions now? Because we hear that the government, who say this is nothing to do with us, we can't get involved, have authorised more money to be available on the table for this.
Yeah, indeed, Eamonn. I think that's what it's looking like now, that they've got to a point in negotiations where they have to do something, they have to put money where their mouth is. And, this is natural in strike negotiations where they say, we can't do anything, our hands are tied, there's no money left, and eventually they stump up. But it's just the amounts, I think, that are going to be negotiated over. And I think we're not quite there at a resolution, but we're certainly a little bit closer.
This might be the beginning of the end, though.
Hopefully. And if that happens with the rail unions, then potentially the health workers will also see that there is a way to negotiate with this government, similarly with teaching unions, if that happens too. So let's hope this is the beginning of the end of the disruption.
All right. Leon Emerali, always good to see you. Thanks very much indeed.
Thank you. So the weather. The Met Office has issued multiple yellow weather warnings for snow and ice right across the whole country. Hundreds of flood warnings are also in place. Joining us with the latest on this, journalist Nathan Rao. With this, the thing we want to ask you, we were all forewarned there's going to be snow in London. There's not. Why?
There's not. No, there is still a chance of snow in London through today. There is a Met Office weather warning in place in London through the morning. But the snow risk is really going to be in the north in Scotland, and that's through the week. There's two storms actually brushing past the south coast of London, past the south coast of Britain. These have been named by the French Meteorological Service and the Spanish Meteorological Service, and they are called Gerard and Fionn. And they are bringing a bit more wet and windy stuff in from the south.
Yes.
The north is always going to be the first to get the cold weather and the snow in these types of situations, and that's where it's going to come down from. But I wouldn't rule it out just yet. We've got a week of very cold weather on the way. We are back on the Polar Express.
But two cold systems.
No, these are stormy systems. So these are bringing wet and windy weather up from the south. The cold is coming down from the north. This is a proper, true Arctic blast coming right down from the Arctic region across the north first and then down through the country through the week.
To last for how long?
Probably until about Thursday, and then the chance of showing something milder coming back in that we've seen, maybe wet and windier. But about 4 days we've got of this. And we've got the weather warnings and the health warning as well.
And meanwhile, with the wet weather that we experienced overnight here in London, there are parts of the country at the moment that really can't afford another drop of rain. I'm thinking about the West Country. How are they faring?
Yes. Now, this is a big problem because the heavy rain, we have already had flooding. And if you look at the Environment Agency at the moment, they've got 100-odd weather alerts in place and a few weather warnings which are more serious. This heavy rain is not going to help, and there's going to be a couple of inches more, and these places are on flood alert really through the week, and if we get snow and it melts, that's going to add to it. So there's a lot of weather and a lot of weather hazards sort of going on through the week.
There's a lot of rain, which brings me on to one of my pet hates, which is water companies and these utility companies crying about there's not enough water about, there's not enough rain, and my argument is they don't do enough to catch it.
Yeah.
And they don't dig holes in the ground, they don't create reservoirs.
Yeah.
But it seems such a waste that we get it at this time of the year and no one is preserving it.
Yeah, and you're quite right. And all it does is causes flooding. And just before Christmas, the NIC, which is the National Infrastructure Commission, was warning about steps that need to be taken to prevent flooding, because all of this rain, without the reservoirs, without the boreholes, without being able to capture it, is simply flooding off and running off in torrents and flooding neighbourhoods. We saw it in the West Country. In the West Country have had terrible flooding historically. We're seeing it now with virtually the whole country covered with a splatter of flood warnings. You know, we've seen the pictures of flooding all over the place. And yet, yeah, you're right. We don't seem to be able to cope in the summer when we get a few weeks of hot weather and we've got hosepipe bans. We've only just actually, in the last about 3-4 weeks, come out of the last hosepipe ban from the summer. Yeah. So, yeah, you're quite right. Flooding is a big issue and water shortage is a big issue. So there's the paradox.
But you see, I blame people who put artificial turf down in place of real grass and soil in their back gardens.
Is that not you?
No, I quite like the idea. But is that not you?
No. Oh, I've got patio, I haven't got grass, But it was like that when I moved in, so, can't blame me. But anyway, the point is, I think we ought to have water buttresses, shouldn't we, to store our own water,
I have that.
rainwater.
Do you know I do that?
You.
I have recycling water.
Look at you.
Yes.
Take matters into your own hands. Well, exactly. That's the way to go. And then you can water your flowers in the summer guilt-free. Yeah, or fill up the paddling pool, because, of course, that's what everyone wanted to do in
And they're
in the
huge these days. You can be big swimming pool-sized paddling pools in the garden. You blow them up and there you go, fill them up.
Well, I have a sprinkler system. It gathers all the water, all the rainwater, whatever, and then it only ever sprinkles out and feeds the plants and the grass recycled water.
Yeah. Genius. Yeah, that's a good idea. I mean, this National Infrastructure Commission was actually recommending some interesting things. They say we should be doing rain gardens, which are gardens put on new urban builds that soak in the rain rather than let it run off. Rain gardens, roof gardens. You've got a roof, put a roof. Do something with the roof garden. Stop it running off the roof. Let it soak into something, and grow things on your roof. And stop building new builds on developments where the drainage is already at full capacity is a big one.
Yeah, quite right.
I've just been told it's a water butt, not a water buttress.
Oh, is it? Sounds nice, buttress.
Anyway. Nathan, thanks very much indeed. Thank you. Appreciate that. As Isabel said, let us have your weather pictures. If there's heavy rain, if there's flooding, if there's snow, let us know.
It is 6:12. Let's bring you up to date with the rest of today's top stories. And a 22-year-old man has been arrested on suspicion of murder following a drive-by shooting at a church in central London on Saturday. A 7-year-old girl has been left in a life-threatening condition, and 4 other women and 1 child were injured in the attack.
MPs will debate new anti-strike legislation that would require minimum service levels during industrial action. If passed, some health, fire, education, transport and border security staff could be forced to work during strikes or sacked if they do not. Now, the Trades Union Congress described the law as spiteful. It said it would give ministers sweeping powers that restrict the right to strike.
A British woman has died in an avalanche whilst trekking in the French Alps. Local authorities say she was taken from the mountain by rescuers with a helicopter, but they were unable to save her life. Ask and you shall receive. We're already getting videos in this morning of the weather. Alan has sent this to us. It's been snowing in Glasgow. Let's take a look. Thanks, Alan. OK, some light snowflakes, I have to say. If anyone's listening on the radio, beautiful winter's morning, but light snow, I would say, at this stage. But that's not to say, not to be sniffed at, Alan. More snow than we've got down here in London this morning, isn't it?
So so it's just only 3 weeks on since Christmas, and there we are. That's the way it could have been. The snow normally comes now in January, and visitors come to your home maybe on a Sunday, as happened to me yesterday. And so my friend Rylan, the television and radio presenter, he called to cheer me up. It's nice that some people take their Sunday and they think, how's Eamonn doing? How's Eamonn doing? I'll go and see him. Oh,
I saw you the other week. Oh, right, OK, we're cross with me about that.
Were you forced to do that? Were you forced? Because I got on the phone and said, no one's coming to see me. But I didn't, but Rylan turned up. But the thing about Rylan is, which you wouldn't do this, he sees my incapacities, my disabilities, as some sort of fun fair, as some sort of amusement arcade.
Right.
So there's a few things happened. One thing that happened was I have this reclining chair.
Right, I've seen it. It's wonderful.
Isabel, it's stuck.
Oh, no.
A full recline level. And Rylan...
How did you get out of it?
It was terrible. I was lying prostrate, is that the word?
Yeah.
Prostrate, right? On this chair, reclined, and I couldn't get up, and the engine packed in on this thing.
And Rylan happened to be there during this unfortunate situation.
So he got under it with a flash lamp and tried to plug all the bits back in again for things. And Ruth was down there with her phone and the phone, but I'm stuck and I can't move. So the two of them winch me off this chair, right, eventually. But meanwhile, he then took this as his cue to treat my house like a fun fair.
Right.
He says it's like being at
All
the
the
circus.
gadgets.
All the gadgets.
Right.
And so here's the gadget that really tickled his fancy. Have a look.
Stop beeping. Don't bloody break it.
Can I just do it now? Yeah. It's the noise.
Yeah, here we go.
Oh, this is great.
Excuse me, are you violent? Could I have your autograph?
Can I just say, I know you've been through it, Dad, but you've got an easy life here.
It's a fun fair, it's a fun palace.
Honestly, you could rent this out.
Rent that out for parties and things like that. But just in case you're wondering, and you think that's maybe a bit unnecessary, I fell down 18 of those steps and broke my shoulder.
It's like a ping pong, just
Bing, bing,
bounced
bing,
all
bing,
the way
bing, bing,
down.
bing, 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 and
Awful.
like a corkscrew, turned around, boom, bust my shoulder and whatever. So we're not taking any chances, right? But if you want to come round to my house and play on the Thora Herd, as he called it.
I love that he calls you mum and dad as well. His TV mum and dad. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I wasn't allowed a ride on it when I came round.
Well, it's because you're a sensible human being. You're sensible. I mean, a grown man acting like that was his amusement for the evening. That was it.
Were you still stuck in the chair whilst all that was going on?
I was stuck prostrate in the chair.
I want
get out.
pictures of that.
Well, I said, but Ruth didn't take any pictures. That was it. But
Brilliant.
that would have been, yeah. Oh, it all happened. 17 minutes past 6. A good morning to you. We're getting the latest on the drama in the royal family now, including peace talks. We hear there may be peace talks between Harry, William and Charles. All that to come. But first, the all-important weather.
Hello, very good morning to you. It's a cold week ahead, and with that we are likely to see some snow, but also quite a bit of winter sunshine around too. If we take a look at the bigger picture, and we've got cold Arctic air coming down from the north, and it's this that's leading to our temperatures being on the low side. Notice also this weather system, it's this that brought the wet and wintry weather for some across southern southeastern parts. But as we go through the morning, that is going to clear away. Where we had any wet surfaces overnight, those have frozen, and so there are some icy patches to watch out for this morning if you're taking to the roads. Otherwise, and there'll be some wintry showers across the eastern parts of England today, and plenty of snow showers feeding in across Scotland. But for many, it is going to be dry and also largely sunny. Despite the sunshine though, there will be a cold feel to things. Temperatures down a degree or two compared to yesterday. Some places remaining below freezing, most places getting into the mid-single figures Celsius. Little change as we go through the evening. Still some snow showers across Scotland, otherwise largely clear skies. But through the night, we are going to see some showery rain, sleet and snow starting to push into the southwest. We are likely to see the snow turning a little bit heavy at times. Bit of uncertainty as to how much snow there will be, but it could be a bit impactful as we go through the early hours of Tuesday. Tonight's looking even colder than last night for quite a few spots. Could be quite a harsh, widespread frost first thing in the morning. As we go through the day itself though, and still some snow showers feeding in across parts of Scotland. For many it's largely dry, perhaps a touch cloudier than today, but it's in the south where we're going to see a wintry mix as some showery rain, sleet and snow pushes in from the channel. Need to keep up to date with the forecast with regards to how much snow there'll be. Could cause some problems as we go through the daytime. Temperatures tomorrow are going to be similar to today, so again a very cold feel to things despite the fact that there'll be quite a bit of sunshine around. The wintry weather continues as we go into Wednesday. I think Thursday at the moment looks like it's going to be drier, but the cold weather continues as well. Not until Friday really that we see temperatures rising. See you later.
This year on GB News, we've got brand new members in the family.
Join us. Across the entire United Kingdom, we cover the issues that matter to you. GB News will always stay honest, balanced and fair. We want to hear whatever is on your mind.
And we don't talk down to you.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you.
Britain's watching.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prison.
I'm completely stunned.
I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online, across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
Coming up to 22 minutes past 6, still to come this morning.
At 7:20, we're speaking to the Labour Party. They're putting pressure on the government to rule out a rise in fuel duty.
Then at 7:45, after Prince Harry called his brother's hair loss alarming, we'll ask a celebrity hairstylist about alopecia and how to deal with the condition. Very distressing, people who lose their hair, particularly women. But so they're going to talk about how wigs have advanced and how hair pieces
Hair
work
transplants
very
as well.
well.
Look, keep your views coming in. Lots of you getting in touch about the weather. Billy said, glad you brought up water catching. The government needs to build new houses by the thousands, but no new reservoirs. Not a surprise, flooding's more frequent.
Yeah.
Tony in Suffolk says, in many countries, they capture their rainfall and store it in underground tanks, especially in tanks under the garden. And James says, flooding will only get worse with the alarming number of houses they keep building, especially on the green belt. So keep those thoughts coming in.
Yeah, but you have to provide the infrastructure. There's no doubt about it. And I just think these utility companies, these water companies, what do they spend? They'll go on about, we repair the creaking system and whatever. But if you're not going to dig holes in the ground, we're going to have water shortages. That's as simple as that. A reconciliation between the royal family and Prince Harry before the King's coronation can be done. This is according to a royal source.
Well, royal and showbiz reporter Kinsey Schofield joins us this morning. Good morning to you. So tell us more then. What's this source been saying, Kinsey? I love the crown effect there. Gorgeous.
Well, thank you. I did my pink just for you too, Isabel. Yeah, so a source is saying that they believe that Harry and Meghan can reconnect with the royal family prior to the coronation, that this is crucial for King Charles's coronation. They actually lay out a strategy where they think that Harry, William, and Charles should meet first, and then the women separately. Once that the boys get everything situated, then Catherine and Meghan get together and have their own come to Jesus. However, Isabel, Tom Bower reported this weekend in the Daily Mail that there was a party at Clarence House where King Charles and Camilla hosted friends. And those friends were kind of horrified because Charles said that he did not want to challenge Harry over his disloyalty and he wanted to keep his distance. So I don't know which story to believe, but the cynic in me wonders if the Sussexes would release a story like this about reconciliation or about, the royal family needing them at the coronation because they're not quite happy with the reaction that they got from Spare, which was no reaction at all. So time heals all wounds. Is a reconciliation on the horizon? I'm sure eventually, but I don't know so soon after so much hurt.
Couldn't both things be true, though, Kinsey? Couldn't it be true that this reconciliation plan is underway ahead of the coronation and also this dinner party story being true? Because, as you say, Tom Bower in the Mail, quoted as saying that the King is concerned at what other material his son has on him, particularly about his marriage to Diana. So reconciliation would actually avoid, perhaps, Harry spilling any more beans.
You're absolutely right. Maybe it's almost a forced situation where this is the only way to get him to stay quiet. Because we heard over the weekend, too, he's got 400 more pages of spare part 2.
Yeah.
I can't see this bringing things to an end, because any reconciliation would have to involve somebody, let's say, you know, the royals, saying, yeah, we got this wrong or we did something wrong, whether they believe they got it wrong.
Accountability.
Yeah, whether they believe they got it wrong or not. And then that's more stories, that's more books, that's more documentaries, their truth sort of thing. So, you know, this lot, why don't they just, you know, if they're not going to go away. So, but if you keep inviting them back into the fold, they'll definitely not go away. But it's interesting. We all sit and we say, if this was in our own family, what would we do? How would we handle it?
I reckon I'd probably go down the Charles route of trying to publicly calm it down and just keep him quiet.
I'd go down the route of picking up the phone and say, listen, you little, you know.
Toe rag.
Yeah, you would lay down the road.
I don't think that if they are not invited to the coronation, they won't try to do something to distract from it. It's on Archie's birthday. Watch them release a picture of Archie who we haven't seen in years and we've never seen a clear photo of. I mean, they just seem very vindictive at this point in time.
Yes, you're right. Which brings me to another point. Do you not sleep? You don't sleep. There's me last night. I don't sleep, and I got a message from you about that intruder in my house last night, Rylan. Last night, you were a bit tickled by my stair lift, weren't you?
I think that looks amazing. Disneyland has nothing on your house, Eamon. I cannot wait to come over.
You're absolutely right. The other thing I want to mention about Prince Charles, right? Not Prince Charles, King Charles. He's not short of a bob or two, right? He's getting his wear out of that brown coat, isn't he? That overcoat.
I haven't noticed it.
What? Every picture you see of him throughout winter, he's in that brown overcoat. And you think he could have, well, that's not it, obviously, but you think he would have a grey one or a blue one backup or a black one or something. But it's always
mix it up.
Coat. Mix it up a bit, you know?
Okay.
He's very eco-conscious. I do think that's on purpose. I mean, he wore a recycled suit to Harry and Meghan's wedding.
Good man.
Really? Well, maybe that says a lot. Tell me this now, the fact that you're there and you're wearing your crown today, if you were in charge, how would you deal with the Harry-Meghan situation?
You know, not to offend anybody, but I wouldn't negotiate with terrorists. And these two seem pretty aggressive right now. I would stay back and let them, I mean, I feel like they're imploding on their own.
Yeah, interesting, the fact that you say that. OK, Kinsey, really appreciate it. Always thank you very much indeed for your perspective and your take on things. And we'll say goodbye there. See ya.
Bye.
Thank you.
Stay with us after the break. We're going through the papers this morning, joined by Dawn Neeson and Chris Akabusi. The perfect start to your week.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Deebs & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store. You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
The guy went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions.
I have no time for cultural totalitarianism.
We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Welcome back. It's 6:30. Let's bring you up to date on today's front pages. The Telegraph looks like this. It's leading with the arrest of a British citizen after a radioactive substance was detected at Heathrow's security.
Kate Blanchett there. This new film that she's in, this is called Tar, yeah, where she plays a conductor, an orchestra conductor. Yeah. And so apparently it's getting rave reviews. Guardian there, you see, fury over PM's bid to hand police sweeping powers to halt protests. Do you agree or disagree? Let us know this morning.
Here's the Mail. Call this a cure for the NHS, Sakir, after health experts attacked his plan to let patients refer themselves for treatment.
Going to be talking about that shortly. And The Sun leads on Princess Diana's butler's claim that Harry envied Will because he was served more at his breakfast. Despite what the headline may make you think. Chris Akabusi, Dawn Neeson here this morning to go through the... oh, you just get that, did you?
Yeah. It's just a seamless link there, straight into Chris.
My friend, let's talk about this story which leads on the Mail here. And as someone who's had a lot of medical appointments in the past couple of years, a referral is a real pain in the backside, right? So what did I find a referral for the other day? A neurologist, that's what it was. So even though I'd already been to him, and then a neurologist tests if your nerves work, in my case, my nerves from my back into my legs. But anyway, instead of just being able to see him again, I had to get another referral. What's this whole game? So what is the proposal here?
Well, yeah, so circuit, and interesting, whoever prepared this paper for me said, call this a curse for NHS, and I think they meant cure for NHS circuit. But anyway, back to your story.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I don't know if you see that there. But anyway, so circuit, and what I've got to say is we're clear that there are some challenges with the NHS, and so we do need some grown-up thinking and discussion. So in one way, I think what Sir Keir is doing is just throwing something into the arena for debate. But this latest idea is that patients should have the ability to self-refer themselves to the specialist.
Well, I agree. If there's something wrong with your car, if you need to go to Quick Fit or you need to go to, I don't know, somebody that puts a new engine in or whatever, or get it respread, you know yourself. Yeah. You don't need to be going...
That presupposes, with your car, you're intimate with your car, you know your car, and its quirks. But a challenge that we have for most of us in the general public is that you're well for 80% of your life, then something happens, and then you go to Dr. Google, you think, oh my gosh, I'm dying, I've got a brain aneurysm, and you're going to the specialist, and the specialist can't cope because we're all going down there, when actually you go through the GP, and this is what Sir Keir is against. He's worried about the bureaucracy, the red tape, but you're supposed to go to your GP, and he goes, actually, don't worry, you just need a little bit of a pill and just lay down, you'll be right.
Yeah, but he's calling it bureaucratic nonsense, and I think he's absolutely right.
I mean, in Europe, that's common.
Is it?
Yeah, I mean, you don't have this idea of general practice. You have a sore throat, you go to see the ear, nose and throat doctor. You have a bad sprain in your calf.
Knew that.
Yeah.
Is that because you pay for it, though, privately, or is it...?
Well, yeah, I mean, they don't have an NHS like we do, but it just seems like quite a workable solution.
In theory, it sounds fine, doesn't it? This paragraph brought me up short, though. If you've got internal bleeding and you just need a test, how do you know whether you've got internal bleeding? Unless you're medically qualified yourself.
It's not saying they're going to get rid of GPs. I think if there's any ambiguity, you still go to your GP. But if there's a cut and dry case, which we've all... I had an incident with my little girl. She was sort of falling over a lot, and I was worried about her walking. I had to take her to the GP and make her walk for the GP, but we knew that she just needed a referral to a paediatric podiatrist. And she wouldn't walk because she was shy with the GP. And I was just, give me the blooming referral. I know what we... And in the end, he did. We wasted everybody's time.
Yeah. I mean, of course, there are times when you do know what you need and what you want, but there are also times... The challenge you will have, and I think what the professionals who are sort of castigating Sir Keir Starmer are thinking, you go to Dr. Google and you think, oh, OK, I'm all right, and you sit at home and actually you're not all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you go to GP, they go, no, you're not all right, you go to see a specialist. Or the other way around, you go to the specialist and actually there's actually nothing wrong with you. So I do get the argument, but the best thing is we've got to start a discussion because the NHS is struggling.
We don't have enough GPs and they're all overworked anyway, so let's just go straight to the guy that we're supposed to go and see. Right, so let's talk about, this is the front page of the Daily Telegraph, a terror arrest over uranium discovery. Fill us in on the background to this, Dawn.
Yeah, it's an interesting day for the papers because they've all got different stories on page one, so it's no one story. So it's interesting the Telegraph have picked up on this one. This happened on the 29th of December when a cargo of scrap metal was discovered to contain a very small amount of uranium. It was coming in from Muscat in Oman. And a Brit has been arrested. He's in his 60s, he lives in Cheshire and has been questioned under the Section 9 of the Terrorism Act, making or possessing a radioactive device, which is an incredibly rare thing to be questioned under. The newness of this particular story this morning is that the Iranian regime has recently executed a joint Iranian-Brit national after allegation of spying. And before he was killed, he alleged that he had been tortured for 3,500 hours by the Iranian. So relations between Britain and Iran aren't great this morning, and that is the new take on this particular story. The chap, they say there's nothing to be worried about. I mean, it's a very small quantity of uranium, and it was destined for an Iranian registered business in this country, which is the other link. And he is under arrest, but he's on bail. The chap's been arrested until April, so nothing to worry about. But the new take is relationships between the UK and Iran deteriorating rapidly.
Really interesting hearing Ian Duncan-Smith on Camilla Tominey's new politics show on GB News, which is excellent, by the way, on a Sunday morning. And he was yesterday saying that we need to get out of the Iran deal. It's a disaster, and that we should be absolutely sanctioning the Revolutionary Guard in Iran. Whether or not they'll do that, interesting anyway, from a former leader of the Conservative
Absolutely.
Party.
Well, you think what they're doing out there, Isabel, especially to women at the moment, sort of like being put to death for not wearing the right clothing.
The biggest weapon, my auntie used to always tell me, the biggest weapon that Satan has is that people don't believe in him. This is the biggest plus that he has. So the biggest weapon that the devil, Lucifer, Satan, call him as you want, has is that people go, oh, no such thing as the devil or whatever. So there's a massive rise in Satanism, Chris.
Yeah, so according to the Daily Star, so it must be true. Oh, pardon me.
Very good columnist on a Wednesday, by the way. Just saying.
Deal with the devil. Basically, younger people are disillusioned with traditional religion, with its formality and its perceived austerity, and are tinkering with the devil because apparently it allows them to express their individualism. They want to connect with the rituals, self-realisation and their own self-belief. Although, you know, I mean, I was for 10, 15 years a sort of evangelical fundamentalist Christian, and there's plenty...
Are you not anymore?
No, I wouldn't say fundamentalist or evangelical.
Did you turn to the dark side?
Oh gosh, no, no, definitely not. No, I mean, I had a very visceral experience which made my faith very strong in 1987, and I still retain some sort of links, but I'm just not committed to the formulaic nature of Christianity.
Do you believe in the devil?
I believe in evil.
Yes.
I believe in evil. I don't know the personification like the devil. I think that might be going too far. But I do believe in evil.
Well, he was Lucifer. Lucifer was an angel, wasn't he?
An angel of light. Lucifer. That's why Lucifer,
Yeah.
An angel of light. Yeah, I mean, I certainly think that what we try and do is live in this scientific, reductive world and not aware in the main, or pretend that there is no alternative universe, alternative realms out there. Like, for example, seeing is believing is often said, but actually I do believe there's much more to life than meets the eye. And, we have our specs on and we can see, but actually we can't see infrared, we can't see ultraviolet.
You can't see love, you can't see friendship.
There's so many things that we actually can't see. So, yeah, I very much believe in spirituality, in alternative energy. Whether I go down the route of the devils is a different matter.
Yeah.
But you believe in evil?
No, definitely.
I don't understand why anyone, whether they believe in God or not, would want to turn to something that projects evil, that, reveres evil.
Power.
I suppose this is Putin.
This isn't about the worship of evil or the devil per se. It's about youngsters actually wanting a new way to express themselves in the light of what they've been through recently, without as Chris has said, the strictness of accepted religions. But my favourite line in this is that they've interviewed a Satanist, as you do. There are 5,000 of them registered in the country, evidently, in the latest census.
You have to register.
Well, no, in the latest census, you can declare your religion. Yeah,
well, that's 0.000 of
not
the
many,
population, whatever.
That's what when it says does that 167%, it might be just 2 people.
Yeah, but he says it's like it's not that they're worshipping the devil. It's just they just like the rituals, like sacrificing the occasional virgin. I mean, what sort of rituals are they talking about here?
I give up, honestly.
Dear.
Just couldn't find enough virgins.
There's no virgins anymore.
Let's get back to the NHS. Times front page. 2 in 3 voters thinks the NHS offers a bad service.
Oh, God. Yeah, there's 2 ways of reading this story. It's very interesting because 2 in 3 people are dissatisfied with the service they're getting from the NHS. They're not...
Well, that could mean it's underfunded, couldn't it?
Well, of course, Eamonn. It's not that the NHS is bad and horrible and everyone working in it is awful or evil. It is actually the way the NHS is operating at the moment is not offering the service it should be offering. 80%, I think it's got worse over the last 5 years. Obviously, we've had the pandemic, and obviously we've got to bear in mind that 50,000 more people died than usual over the past 12 months. Ambulances, flu, etc., etc. The more worrying thing here for the Conservative government is that 85% of us actually, this is a poll by the way, 85% of us believe the government is handling the current NHS crisis wrong. And there's various doctors and professors interviewed here. Dame Jane Dacre, a former president of the Royal College of Physicians, has described the NHS as a bottomless pit of need.
I think one of the challenges when you read this story, though, is to think it was only sort of 2 years ago when we were all on a Thursday, many of us on a Thursday were clapping our hands or banging our pots, and we were eulogising how wonderful the NHS was.
The actual staff, the staff that were looking after us, wasn't it? That's what we were doing, and now we can't afford to pay them suddenly.
Yeah.
But, they need more than a round of applause. This isn't having a go at the people on the front line who are doing the jobs. It's the organisation and the fact, as we've already discussed, that seeing a GP is difficult these days. Ambulance times, A&Es are overrun. So it's not having a go at the NHS, it's just the fact that it's just not offering the service it should be offering at the moment, and people are dying.
Whilst there are laws to try and stop people like nurses from going on strike, the current government also trying to crack down on protests. The Guardian, unsurprisingly, absolutely furious about this, but other people pointing out what Rishi Sunak is saying in all of this is actually what he's trying to do is to protect the hard-working majority, let them carry out their ordinary lives. We all saw the protest, didn't we?
Yeah.
People sitting across the road, ambulances not being able to get through, and the police not really knowing how to police it.
Yeah.
So this should change that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so there are people who are a little bit worried that this could be the thin edge of the wedge, that you start with things that everybody agrees with, well, not everybody, but a lot of people would agree with, like you just said, just stop oil, walking at 0 miles an hour and stopping people get to work, stopping ambulances getting through, even if it's unintended, etc., etc. But there is a fundamental right in a civil society to be able to protest. And while we all might, or many people might agree, oh yeah, let's stop that, what happens when it's something that you believe in? And the police get wind of that, and an authority says, just stop them before they get started. And so this is the challenge, is actually people who are pro-civil liberties, pro the right for free speech, are worried that the government might use this to crack down on things that we might all agree with. So I do understand that particular argument, but then, as I heard one of the previous contributors saying, this might be Rishi Sunak trying to toughen himself up or give himself an image of being a
hard man,
Prime Minister in control. You know, like, I mean, Margaret Thatcher, she really grew in stature when she took on the miners and then finally ended up going to, not with the miners, but going to war in the Falklands. And all of a sudden, she was a real strong leader. And so maybe what we've got here is somebody around Richardson saying you need a few battles that you can actually fight and also go on to win and get the public on your side. So...
The Prime Minister of Law and Order. It's interesting, we can all remember that picture of the girl face down at that Sarah Everard vigil. Do you remember that image of the police being really authoritarian?
Yeah.
And they've got a quote from her in The Guardian this morning, obviously offended by these changes to the law. And she's sort of saying, would that vigil have been allowed to go ahead?
Well, the vigil was stopped, but the vigil was appallingly stopped in any case, wasn't it? So they already did that.
Quite an argument to make, won't it?
Yeah, and Just Stop Oil, by the way, have said doesn't matter what the government do, we can still carry on doing what we're doing in any case.
Well, also, they'll come up with a new spin. They'll just come up with something else that we haven't thought through.
Yeah.
In the end, you're going to be looking for 100 different ways to stop Just Stop Oil making their point. They'll find new ways.
Although, interesting, Extinction Rebellion announcing, was it last week or the week before, we're done with these protests because they don't work. They've basically disbanded, haven't they? Which I think is fascinating, given, you know, Just Stop Oil carrying on. But Extinction Rebellion said, I'm hanging up my protest shoes for now.
Isabel, let me have the front page of the Express there, will you? Because, Dawn, we want to talk about this. The Express says, countryside under siege in rush for Holmes. Now, I'm not sure I believe this. There is this... People come out in a rush when you talk about building. Maybe it shouldn't be in the countryside. Maybe it should be in the countryside. I think we're all agreed it should be in brownfield sites.
Absolutely.
First and foremost when these things happen. And you just can't keep building without, as we were talking earlier, the infrastructure, the roads, the education system, the water system, you know what we do to land, what we do to rivers, what we do to floodplains, all sorts of things. What's your take on this one?
Well, this is obviously basically the story is that, you know, we don't have enough homes in this country at the moment.
I don't know what the aversion is to, what's the word I'm looking for, council housing. What's it called?
Social housing.
Social housing now, social housing now.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. So we need to build more homes, and it's just where we do it and, you know, taking over the countryside. But as you say, Eamonn, brownfield sites, there's plenty of them. I mean, certainly in sort of like huge swathes of East London and sort of was walking down the Thames yesterday, loads of space out there. So we do need to concentrate on this problem. But, you know, we are building on floodplains. And as we've already discussed in the weather at the moment, the reason we've got terrible flooding is we keep building on places like floodplains. Yeah. So, but the bottom line with the story is we don't have enough homes for people. Where are we going to build them? How are we going to build them? And sort of like in the countryside, are we going to have any countryside left?
But what about people who work and live in the countryside already and have families in the countryside? Where do they live? They need social housing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's pushing prices up as well. People going from the cities to certainly the nicer parts of the countryside, pushing housing prices up so the locals can't afford it. But we don't build enough social housing now. I mean, I don't know what the actual statistics are, but there is not enough social housing being built for people.
It's very interesting. Sinn Féin in Ireland are really gaining in popularity north and south of the border, and their main ticket now is housing and the terrible lack of housing and the stock that it's available and whatever. So housing, I'm surprised it's not more of an issue.
Interesting, it hasn't actually been a big thing for either party over here at the moment, has it? I mean, we're concentrating obviously on sort of like the NHS and the immigration problem, but we're not mentioning housing. And I think you're right, Eamonn. I think if they did make it, especially for youngsters, I mean, let's face it, a lot of, as we've discussed with the Satanism, a lot of youngsters feel disenfranchised, not just with religion, but also with the political parties. They feel homeless. So I think if someone started concentrating on that, maybe.
I feel very, very strongly about social housing. I mean, I was brought up in a council house, and the con was we bought our council house for very little money. But the point is, you just assumed they were going to build more council houses, but they weren't doing it. And the idea that people in social housing don't have families, don't have aspirations, aren't good citizens, aren't good for the community. You know, it's just a nonsense, and it needs to be addressed. I just don't understand why the system is so broken. Did you live in a social house, or?
I live in a children's home.
Yeah, that's right. Of course you did.
I was brought up in a children's home. So I mean, I think the challenge you do have here, and we have touched on it, is this NIMBYism, is that people don't want a social. So I live in a beautiful part of the countryside, in the middle of like 750 acres of parkland, and the idea is, okay, would I want my children's home? Would I want Kezia Akabusi? That's what I was called as a child. Kezia Akabusi. Would I want Kezia Akabusi and the 25 children from the children's home living at the end of my garden?
Difficult, isn't it? I honestly think if we all examine our consciences, we probably have a NIMBY deep down, whether or not we want to admit it or not. But
because
we have to accept.
Keith's the sort of guy, I'll climb over your fence, nick your apples, not realising you might have broken Mr. Akabusi's fence in getting the apples.
That is a terrible attitude. That is like saying, every motor mechanic, every painter and decorator, everybody who works in a factory, and if they live in social housing, they're undesirable.
No, Eamonn, I'm just saying Keezy. I was talking about myself, not everybody else.
No, I know. I'm not criticising you for it, my friend. I know it is a view that you're honest enough to express there. And again, we just want to know from you watching and listening at home what your take on it is. And I think we should return to this next time around, what people have to say. You can tweet me at Eamonn Holmes as well with that one. Let's bring you up to date with the top stories.
Thank you. Right, the time is 6:50. Teachers in Scotland begin their 16 days of rolling strike action today. It comes after the Scottish Government offered a 5% pay offer on Thursday, but union members demand 10%.
The FA has strongly condemned the incident which saw the Arsenal goalkeeper Aaron Ramsdale attacked by a Tottenham fan, after his side's victory over Spurs in the North London derby. The FA said that it would work to ensure appropriate action is taken.
British and Irish talent were left disappointed after being snubbed in every major category during the 28th Critics' Choice Awards. Best Director went to Daniel Kwan and Daniel Scheinert for their film Everything Everywhere All at Once, and Colin Farrell was beaten by Brendan Fraser in the Best Actor category.
So here we are. It is Monday the 16th of January, which is the third Monday in January, and apparently that's not good.
Yes, it's Blue Monday. The weather's rubbish. There's another week to go until you get paid. No surprise then, perhaps, that we're all feeling a bit miserable.
OK, so the Samaritans is renaming today Brew Monday, B-R-E-W, as in, have a cuppa with someone.
Not as in the brewery.
So what they're doing is encouraging people to get together and talk. Let's go to Will Hollis. He's at Lincoln Railway Station with Samaritans, and you guys, Will, are talking to commuters on their way to work about this, because loneliness is an awful thing, particularly when the days are short, it's dark all the time, cold, miserable, whatever. No need to reinforce that to you. You standing out there at the train station, tell us more.
Yes, well, it seems a little bit quiet here still at Lincoln Railway Station, but a few people have been coming in and Samaritans have been talking to them because, as you say, Eamonn, it is Blue Monday, dubbed Blue Monday since the early 2000s, because the idea is you've got no cash left and maybe you're a bit cold and a little bit miserable. But that's the reason why Samaritans is here, because they want to say you can feel actually depressed on any day of the year, and nothing about today is actually very special. And that's why Gary is here from Lincoln Samaritans. Gary, Brew Monday, where did the idea come from when most people will know it as Blue Monday?
Well, people say that people are going to be feeling more down this time of the year, particularly this week, because the festivities are over, children have gone back to school, people are going back to work, trying to get settled in. And, they say that it's been difficult. It's been a difficult year, and this is supposedly one of the worst days. But we refute that, and we would say that, let's try and turn that on its head and call it Brew Monday rather than Blue Monday. And what we're trying to do here at the train station is to be able to just give people some time and just encourage people to have a chat. And we're giving out tea bags and coffee bags today to people. And we just want them to be able to spend some time having a chat, finding out what's going on in someone else's life.
And this isn't the only railway station where you'll be this morning. You're at railway stations across the East Midlands as well as across the country. If somebody was to be coming through here today or any other railway station and they did see you in your green bibs, how might they be able to approach you about the problems that they're having?
Absolutely. Today we've got about half a dozen people here, both from the Samaritans and from the Lincoln Co-op, and they've really helped us out by giving us tea bags, coffee bags, helping with some funding. And what we would say is just approach us, just come and say hi. We've got sweets, we've got tea bags and coffee bags, and we just want to just say hi, let's make the day better for you if that's possible.
And then obviously refuting Blue Monday, but we do have a cost of living crisis. It is cold, and that does mean that some people will feel seasonal depression. If people do feel that they need a little bit of help from Samaritans because they don't have anybody else to talk to, how might they go about that today or any other day of the year?
You know, Will, it is a difficult time of the year, and it has been a difficult time of the year. What with the cost of living crisis, and one thing goes on top of the other, and what we would say is there are ways that you can contact the Samaritans. You could write to the Samaritans, and that's free post Samaritans letters. That's all you need to put on the envelope, free post Samaritans letters. Or you could email us, and the email address is joe, that's jo, @samaritans.org. Or indeed, the way that people know most of all how to contact us is by ringing us, and the number is 116 123. And when you ring us, we'll give you our attention, our full attention, and we will listen and listen and listen to what...
Gary, thank you very much. We're going to have a cup of tea, we're going to have a little bit of a chat. Eamonn, you know that I can talk for England, but I'm sure lots of other people are going to be talking at this station and others around the country today with the Samaritans.
Yeah, loneliness is an awful thing.
Such an important thing. I think you're absolutely right. And so many people spend way too much time on their own. And if you know somebody on your street who you think would appreciate a knock on the door...
Well, I got a knock on the door last night, and I appreciated it.
Yeah, you were lonely yesterday.
Ryland, I'm always lonely. It's lonely. You can be surrounded by people, but still lonely. No, it is a serious thing. Going to talk about it later in the programme. Back after this.
Hello, very good morning to you. It's a cold week ahead, and with that we are likely to see some snow, but also quite a bit of winter sunshine around too. If we take a look at the bigger picture, and we've got cold Arctic air coming down from the north, and it's this that's leading to our temperatures being on the low side. Notice also this weather system, it's this that brought the wet and wintry weather for some across southern, southeastern parts. But as we go through the morning, that is going to clear away. Where we had any wet surfaces overnight, those have frozen, and so there are some icy patches to watch out for this morning if you're taking to the roads. Otherwise, and there'll be some wintry showers across the eastern parts of England today, and plenty of snow showers feeding in across Scotland, but for many it is going to be dry and also largely sunny. Despite the sunshine though, there will be a cold feel to things, temperatures down a degree or two compared to yesterday, some places remaining below freezing, most places getting into the mid single figures Celsius. Little change as we go through the evening, still some snow showers across Scotland, otherwise largely clear skies, but through the night we are going to see some showery rain, sleet and snow starting to push into the southwest. We are likely to see the snow turning a little bit heavy at times, bit of uncertainty as to how much snow there will be, but it could be a bit impactful as we go through the early hours of Tuesday. Tonight's looking even colder than last night for quite a few spots, could be quite a harsh widespread frost first thing in the morning. As we go through the day itself though, and still some snow showers feeding in across parts of Scotland. For many it's largely dry, perhaps a touch cloudier than today, but it's in the south where we're going to see a wintry mix as some showery rain, sleet and snow pushes in from the channel. Need to keep up to date with the forecast with regards to how much snow there'll be. Could cause some problems as we go through the daytime. Temperatures tomorrow are going to be similar to today, so again a very cold feel to things despite the fact that there'll be quite a bit of sunshine around. The wintry weather continues as we go into Wednesday. I think Thursday at the moment looks like it's going to be drier, but the cold weather continues as well. Not until Friday really that we see temperatures rising. See you later.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us. We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing! You see, amazing!
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
My name's Tom Harwood and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akue, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun. Every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
The Prime Minister prepares new police powers to crack down on eco-protesters.
Hello there, very good morning. Good to have you on board. The time just after 7 o'clock. It's the 16th of January on this Monday morning. Breakfast with Eamonn and Isabel.
So here's what's leading the news this morning. Rishi Sunak will give the police new tools to stop disruption by groups like Extinction Rebellion and Just Stop Oil. The PM will say that the legislation's aimed at cracking down on guerrilla tactics.
Ministers will push for schools to allow classes for GCSE and A-levels if unions announce today that teachers are going on strike.
22-year-old man's been arrested on suspicion of attempted murder after the drive-by shooting in central London on Saturday. 4 women and 2 girls were injured.
Yellow weather warnings are in effect across England, Wales and Northern Ireland and Scotland. Snow predicted in parts of the country, particularly the further north you go.
We love to hear from you throughout the programme. We are the People's Channel. Lots of you talking about artificial grass, because we were talking about the increased runoff on the roads and on the streets. Lots of rain overnight, actually, instead of the snow, here in London anyway. Carol says the drainage is the same as with natural grass. It is patios and tarmac that causes the problem. I didn't know that.
Yeah, we're talking about all this rain, this weather situation as well, and how the water companies don't capture the rain. Pat in Cornwall. Morning, Pat, says the massive increase in population, especially in holiday season, caused a huge strain on our water resources, leading to reservoir levels falling to extremely low levels.
There we go. Keep those thoughts coming in. GBViews at gbnews.uk and let us know where you're watching and listening from. And Eamonn wants your tweets directly to him as well this morning at Eamonn Holmes.
To our top story, I was waiting for a little tingly-wingly dancey jingle.
Oh, yeah, we got rid of it.
Happening there. Well, it was on the script there in front of us, but anyway. So to the top story, the Prime Minister is going to announce today an expansion to police powers that would give police the ability to stop disruption before it begins.
In an announcement today, the Prime Minister will claim he's answering calls from police chiefs who are asking for clarity on how to tackle the so-called guerrilla tactics by groups like Extinction Rebellion and Just Stop Oil.
So, speaking yesterday, the policing minister, Chris Philp, responded to claims this was a crackdown on the right to protest.
Of course we, as a government, fully respect the right to protest, but that does need to be properly balanced with the right of the general public to go about their day-to-day lives. And where some of these protesters have been deliberately trying to ruin the lives of their fellow citizens, we think that is not acceptable. But it's possible to protest while at the same time allowing ordinary citizens to go about their daily lives.
Well, joining us for more is the former aide to the Chief Secretary to the Treasury, Leon Emerali. Good to see you again, Leon. Look, this will play well, won't it, into the, as the Prime Minister describes it, the ordinary, hard-working person trying to go about their business being disrupted by these guerrilla tactics.
Well, that'll be the intention of this announcement, but there is a fine line here between being what's sensible policing and also being perhaps too heavy-handed. And I think no one wants to live in a police state, and that maybe is some of the fears that people will be having when reading this policy. We want to live in a country where the police are fair and firm, but not sort of restricting people's right to protest.
And, of course, the government can't just bring this in without the agreement of Parliament. So, you know, there's likely to be opposition or sort of back and forth, is there not, from not only Labour, but also the Lords?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is a policy that is designed to appeal to the right wing of the Conservative Party. We see some opposition on the front page of The Guardian. We'll certainly hear from Labour MPs today, I'm sure, talking in opposition to this proposal. So it isn't a clear-cut thing, but it's about politics here. It's about positioning Rishi Sunak as a tough guy. We know that he's seen as perhaps slightly weak, perhaps slightly a little bit too feeble, and I think that this is an opportunity for him to stamp his authority.
Do you think that his position as being weak is being helped by the fact that almost all the unions now are coming out across the board and beginning their own form of strike action? This general strike seems to be happening in this country. He needs to take a tough line on it. I mean, he's trying with this legislation, and yet here we are. We're hearing in Scotland 16 days of teacher strikes getting underway today, and we're expecting a ballot based on teachers here in England, expecting strike action there, which is a bad look, isn't it?
It is, and I think we have got a reputation in this country right now as out of control. We are essentially just letting the unions run riot. Everyone's striking, it seems. Everyone's got a grievance with the government. And I think that we need to be in a position where the government takes control of this. It is on ministers, it is on the Prime Minister to actually either negotiate a deal with the unions or put them in a position where they say, this isn't fair, we can't give you a pay rise, we can't give you what you want right now, but here's an opportunity to perhaps move forward.
Isn't the problem, though, that there actually is infighting within government on how best to tackle this? I mean, the word was Steve Barclay was pretty much at a point of making a deal with the health unions. We heard that before with the rail workers as well. At the 11th hour, we're getting resistance, are we not, from Downing Street, from number 11 and from number 10?
Indeed, and I think that's the big problem here, is that if you're the health secretary, you're the education secretary, you want to essentially make these strikes go away. It's causing you a headache.
Yeah.
You go to your boss at number 10, you go to the Chancellor and say, where's that pot of money, please? I'd like to pay the teachers more, I'd like to pay the nurses more. But the money isn't there. We have got a difficult economic situation, and it's simply a case of we can't afford to pay them.
I would argue, though, I think very similar to with the nursing strikes, when parents start seeing their children back at home, those kids who are facing exams in a few months' time, we've got GCSEs and A-levels coming up in May, will be very, very anxious to hear about possible strike action, and quite rightly so, because we've seen the impact on young people as a result of being kept at home.
Yeah, I mean, I feel sorry for the kids who've gone through years of learning on Zoom. That doesn't really work for anyone. These kids need to be back in the classroom, back talking to their friends, interacting. It's an important year if you're taking your GCSEs or your A-levels. You don't want to be disrupted by a week out of the classroom because teachers are on strike. So, you know, I do think that that's not necessarily going to be popular with the public, especially with parents.
And Leon, finally, a big dilemma as well brewing for the Prime Minister in the form of these transgender reforms that the Scottish Parliament have voted through. But they could have implications for all of us, not those only who live in Scotland. Explain why it's a dilemma for the Prime Minister.
Well, it's a dilemma because it's essentially a constitutional issue. It's a case of the UK being at odds within its own countries that constitute it. And I think that is the big problem here. Westminster and Scotland are effectively at odds with one another.
Could we see the Prime Minister then blocking Scottish legislation? How well will that go down?
Well, that seems to be the direction we're heading towards, and I think that is going to be a big worry, because we are going to have the Prime Minister essentially telling the First Minister of Scotland they can't do something that they want to enable. So there could be a big political fight down the road.
Course, absolutely. Leon Emerali, fascinating as always to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed.
Now we're going to talk about that awful shooting on Saturday in London, Euston in London. A man's now been arrested on suspicion of attempted murder. It left 6 people injured, including a child, 7-year-old girl who remains in a critical condition. Joining me now in the studio for the latest on this, police commentator Graham Wetton. Graham, good to see you. Sad, Graham, that we're talking about this, and we're increasingly talking about this sort of thing. We had the Christmas murder in Liverpool, indiscriminate shooting as well, a beautiful young girl. And now we have this. We have people attending a funeral. Therefore, whoever the shooter was knew that whoever he wanted was going to be in that congregation as well. What did you make of this? Lunchtime on a Saturday afternoon?
Well, I mean, it's still early days in that investigation. So, as you said, one arrest has been made. So that will be part of the reason, the motive, etc. Was that the actual target? Was that the venue? Were the people actually there targeted by it? And we've seen other incidents where there's been, innocent victims being caught up in these attacks. So that'll be part of the focus of the investigation. But it just shows an escalation in violence or the type of violence some people are willing to use on the street.
Yeah, I mean, we're used to knife crime in this country, aren't we? It's a huge problem. People always talk about the guns in America as if it's a distant problem. But as Eamonn says, now we're seeing it on our shores increasingly. Yeah,
it is. And it's a worrying trend for policing. It comes down to, again, building your trust and relationships with communities to get the information about either people carrying knives or carrying firearms or holding firearms illegally, and then the propensity or the capacity to go out and actually use them, and actually using that information to try and prevent it.
Graham, but the thing that gets me is that there seems to be a confidence. Either the people who are using, and we have been down this, as Isabel said, with knife crime before, that they use knives with impunity or they've got a defence about this. Is the defence for using a gun the same as it would be for using a knife? Well, I had it to protect myself.
Yeah, similarly. And we see it a lot with gangs involved in organised crime, be it drugs or whatever criminality they're involved in. It's actually to protect what they've got, protect their area, protect whatever criminal activities are taking place. So they get them to actually protect themselves against other criminals. And it's members of the public that tend to then get impacted.
I just think the vulnerability of these poor people, at this particular time, this weakness at a funeral service. I mean, how despicable. Well, you can't get despicable. The young girl in Liverpool was despicable. Christmas crime. That family will never be able to celebrate Christmas Eve again or anything like that. But one of the things that incenses me is mafia-type films and gangster-type films which glamorise the use of guns. And I don't know about you, it might be just a thing with me, but people go, oh, best movie ever made was The Godfather, and great film on the Krays. I couldn't care less about the Krays. I don't want to know about the Krays. I just know they were bad people. And the idea, I worry that there is a glamorisation associated with bad people.
I think you're right. I think there are parts of society or the film industry that glamorises almost like criminality and bad people. You go back to like the Westerns, and it was the same, wasn't it? Bonnie and Clyde. It's like
the difference with the Westerns was in the old days they used to have either a white hat or a black hat, and you knew the goodie from the baddie. And you have a John Wayne film or whatever it is. There's no doubt about who the good guy is and who the bad guys are as well. But the lines are very much blurred now in the minds of these people who pull the trigger. What on earth, are they drugged up to the eyeballs? Are they being paid for this? Is it we've seen it in Ireland that it's some sort of fanatical cause that they're married to or whatever. It has to be money or drugs.
A lot of it is. It's money. It's basically trying to acquire stuff, either be it money or property or things. So it comes down to almost like trying to acquire stuff, so getting more money, and that's where criminality tends to come from, all criminality.
But are we seeing a rise in violent crime? And is that a consequence of cost of living crisis? People are more desperate, people are taking more extreme measures, or is it a weak government? I mean, we've been hearing about a bit of a problem for Rishi Sunak. Does he appear to be the Prime Minister of law and order or not? I mean, is there this rise in violent crime, do you think?
The Met Commissioner was on the other week talking about specifically London, but across the country there's been a drop in some parts of violent crime, but then other crimes then escalate. And it's exactly what can you prioritise really? What you're dealing with that particular week? What's your priority for that particular period of time? What do the government want you to focus on? And what crimes are actually increasing? You've only got finite resources to look at, be it domestic abuse, be it online crime, online fraud, etc., or violent crime. So they've been tackling violent crime to a good extent recently.
What do you think of this public order bill, just out of interest as a former copper? Do you think it's good to give the police more powers to deal with these sorts of protests?
I don't actually think the police need more power to protest. They don't need more legislation. There's enough legislation on the books. What we need is the courts to actually take action against people when they're arrested and put before them for these types of offences.
Yeah, that actually reflects how people are getting in touch with me this morning on Twitter. They're basically saying we don't need new powers, we just need the police to be able to implement them with impartiality and the judicial system to act upon the new laws as well.
I still speak to many public order commanders, and their view is very, very similar. That actually they've got the legislation, they've got the powers, they just need the courts and the government to back them up when they use them.
Graham, I wanted to talk to you last week. There was a story that came out about the amount of police officers leaving the profession, feeling undervalued, and just the pressure on them is just too much. I'm not just talking about money in terms of undervalue. I'm just saying that how society looks upon the police and how their employers tend to treat them. What about the pressure, and what is it like being able to encourage young people, new people to come into the police force and think this is a worthwhile job?
You know, I asked that last week. It's a bit of a head and heart. My heart would say join because I had a great time, but it's not the same as when I joined. Society's changed, policing's changed dramatically. The head says now, currently, it's almost like people are coming in and just doing it for a couple of years. It's no longer seen as a career or a vocation, which is one huge issue. The retention crisis in policing is huge. Actually, once you get your staff in and train them, you want to keep them, because by that time they're becoming more and more experienced the longer you spend in. So you want to retain your staff. The biggest crisis in policing is retention of staff. That's why they've got, I think the survey was about 2 in every 5 are thinking of leaving in the next few years. It comes down to, just talking about money, it comes down to pay and conditions and being at work, and actually being not just valued by your middle management. Most chief constables actually are quite good at supporting their staff. It comes down to your chief inspectors, your superintendents. Those actually you're working alongside every single day, valuing what you're doing and recognising what you're doing and supporting you.
And being politicised, I suppose, as well. There's massive pressure on that.
Much more so these days.
Maybe a conversation for another day, Graham. Always good to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Good seeing you. 7:15 is the time.
Let's bring you up to date with the rest of today's top stories. And MPs will debate new anti-strike legislation that would require minimum service levels during industrial action. If passed, some health, fire, education, transport and border security staff could be forced to work during strikes or sacked if they don't.
A British woman has died in an avalanche while trekking in the French Alps. Local authorities say she was taken from the mountain by rescuers in a helicopter, but they were unable to save her life.
Drivers have been urged to watch out for icy conditions today during rush hour. A Met Office yellow warning remains in place for the UK until 10 a.m, with the exception of Scotland, where snow is forecast to continue into the afternoon.
What do I do on a Sunday night, Isabel?
What do? You love to watch your favourite TV show?
Correct.
Get ahead for the week?
Religiously, I sit 9 o'clock on a Sunday night waiting for the next episode of Happy Valley.
Your favourite show, but what happened last night?
Well, we had a visitor.
Oh.
An unannounced visitor.
Well, you love unannounced visitors. You always say you wish there were more unannounced visitors in your life.
Do you ever, listeners and viewers, have someone who outstays their welcome? You know, who basically think you're looking at your watch and think it was about time they went now, and there's no sign of going.
I've got a tip for that. You should say, would you like a cup of tea before you leave?
Oh, that's a good one.
Good hint.
My father used to get up and wind the clock.
What forward?
Well, he used to just get up and wind the clock on top of the mantelpiece, which was like, well, I'm off to bed now and whatever. Brilliant. But I'm going. So anyway, my friend Rylan, he is a nice guy. He's a nice guy.
He's funny.
He means well, bless
funny.
him. He means well. So anyway, he called in unexpectedly last night, and he was better than medicine for me, really. But the thing is, I have my incapacities and inabilities at the minute, and I'm restricted in many ways in my mobility. But I have this chair which does things for me. It tips me up.
It's like the one in Friends. You know, one of those lazy...
No, it's more medical. More medical than lazy boys you're thinking of.
Yeah.
No, this is more medical.
Okay.
It's less comfortable than that.
Okay.
But you know what it does is most furniture's designed wrongly that your bottom is below your knees.
Oh, right, you need to raise your legs.
You need to raise your bottom.
Oh.
Yes, you bring your bottom up, so the chair will raise your bottom up, and then you can step out of the chair.
Yeah, got it.
But anyway, mine broke. Mine broke last night.
Was that while Rylan was there?
And while he was there, so he got under it like a motor mechanic trying to fix it, right?
I need to see.
And I was stuck. I was left there. So meanwhile, while I was left stranded in my reclining chair, which still incidentally hasn't been fixed, he takes off around the house treating my mobility aids as some sort of fun fair.
Like Disneyland.
Have a look at this.
Hang on, wait, stop speaking. Don't bloody break it.
Can I just do it now? Yeah. It's the noise.
Yeah, here we go.
Oh, this is great.
me, you violent. Can I have your autograph?
Can I just say, I know you've been through it, Dad, but you've got an easy life here.
It's a fun fair, it's a fun palace.
Honestly, you could rent this out.
Oh my goodness, please
not
tell
a
me
toy.
you didn't break it. That's expensive.
We didn't. It's very expensive. But the voice you heard in the distance was me stuck on my broken reclining chair before he came and hoisted me
I bet Ruth
out
was
with
thrilled you were trapped there.
But anyway, the main thing was he just stayed on and got closer and closer to 9 o'clock.
Oh.
Then I couldn't watch Happy Valley until
ruined
10
your day.
o'clock. No, I did watch it, but not until 10
So
o'clock.
you've had no sleep, is what you're saying.
So basically,
Thanks for that,
it
Rowan.
impaired and impacted on my sleep.
Oh, there you go.
But I don't think he gets out often. I think that really was the thing. Yeah. Anyway, if you had any unwanted visitors...
Let us know.
Yeah. We have a wanted visitor now from the Labour Party, Jonathan Reynolds.
Yeah.
Tell us more.
Well, police are to be given powers to shut down protests to try and stop widespread disruption under those plans being announced by government today. And we're going to speak to the Shadow Business Secretary, Jonathan Reynolds, about that and all the other top stories of the day. Good morning to you. Your views, first of all, on these proposed plans to the Public Order Bill.
Good morning. Yes, nice to be with you this morning from Staley Bridge. So we've had an announcement of this overnight. We'll obviously have to see exactly what it is the government are proposing. But my first reaction is to say, of course, people need to be able to get on and live their lives, do what they need to do alongside protests that are taking place. But the police do already have quite extensive powers around that. And most of the time that the problems, frustrations people feel are when the police don't have the capacity, don't have the resources to do that. So I would like to hear a little bit from government about how they're going to do this alongside the big reductions in police numbers we've seen over the last 13 years. And, you know, in terms of what we've heard, that it might be preempting protest. I mean, that doesn't sound particularly British to me. Of course, people have the right to protest alongside striking the right balance in not disrupting other people's lives too much. So I worry, I'm afraid, it's just a press release rather than anything substantive from the government this morning.
What is announced and how that goes as it goes through Parliament. Can I turn your attention to the front of the Mail this morning? And this follows on from some of the things that your leader, Sir Keir Starmer, said during a big round of interviews yesterday, when he was talking about this idea of sort of avoiding going to your GP and going straight to specialists as a sort of reform into the NHS. Well, this is being described as dangerous by critics this morning and a worrying reliance on things like Dr. Google. Has he thought this through?
Well, yes, we have. Well, first of all, we are consulting on a 10-year plan to reform the NHS. The truth is, after 13 years of the other side being in power, things are very, very tough in the NHS, and there isn't a huge amount of money around to simply say, just spend more money on things. The economy we've got isn't the kind of economy that's going to produce the revenues to do that. So we've got to at least think about doing things differently. And when we talk about the specific issue of going straight for specialist care, this wouldn't be for everything. This wouldn't be completely removing GPs from the system. It already does exist in a number of areas for a few treatments, and looking at greater ways to do that, but most of all being willing to think about doing things in a different way within a publicly funded, publicly provided National Health Service, I do think is necessary, because at the minute, the kind of experience people are having when they're trying to access care, it is simply not good enough. And I often think when politicians or anyone proposes thinking of new ways of doing things, it does get sometimes a negative reaction. Even the creation of the NHS in 1948 got a similar reaction initially. But I think we're right to think about not just how we can try and get more capacity, more resources into the NHS, but how can it work better for everybody? And we've got to be willing to have those conversations.
It's honest, you know, you're admitting there that you could well be on a collision course with medics in all of this, because a lot of people will say, you know, a Labour government, you're going to be having big fights with the BMA. They're opposed to this suggestion. Wes Streeting also saying he wants to end GPs' independence and get them on NHS contracts, and that's not going to go down well with the BMA.
Well, look, it's not about trying to pick a fight with anybody. It's simply the case that we have to look at how we can have a National Health Service that really works for the kind of health conditions, the kind of society we have today, and we've got to be willing and able to put forward new ideas around that. I mean, sometimes even I think the proposal we put forward where obviously we would double the number of doctors being trained in the NHS, that actually got a negative reaction at first when we put it forward. So look, there'll sometimes be that. We're more than willing to have the conversation about what we're trying to do, which is a modern health service, still a National Health Service in public hands, delivered for the public's benefit, but in the past, we've seen reforms have a substantial improvement in how the health service works, and I think we've got to be willing to have that conversation. And it's certainly not about picking a fight for the sake of it, but we've got to be willing and able to put forward those ideas, because otherwise what happens is public satisfaction with the NHS will decline, people will look elsewhere to get the healthcare they need, and that wouldn't be in anybody's interest. So we're going to put forward plans that will really make the National Health Service work for people today. And I'm afraid on your specific issue as well, I should say, on the salaried nature of GPs, I mean, a big issue in a constituency like mine is GPs not wanting to be partners on the old model, big private interest coming in and buying surgeries out, because the kind of expectation younger GPs have at times is not the traditional model. So again, that is already changing, and we've got to look at that too.
Look, we're almost out of time. I do want to ask you about this potentially constitutional crisis that could unfold with Scotland's gender bill. The Prime Minister heavily signalling that he may have to move to block it. Again, yesterday, Sir Keir Starmer also objecting to a number of parts to the bill. Is he right, then, the Prime Minister, to try and block it?
We have objections to the SNP law that they put forward. It's not our policy. In terms of whether that's a constitutional issue, we'll have to see what the government do in response to that. I'm not entirely sure what the government's case is.
What would Labour do? You have to block it in the same way that Rishi Sunak.
I can't tell you what the constitutional issue is the government thinks it has there. We've got a policy which is different to the SNP's. If the devolution is, the whole point is you will have disagreement. So I'm not necessarily sure I see the constitutional case for this, but in terms of the actual policy, it's not what we would support, no.
Jonathan Reynolds, Shadow Secretary for Business. Good to get you on this morning. Thanks very much indeed for your time.
Thank you.
OK, stay with us. After the break, Paul Coyte's here with all the sport.
I wasn't with you.
No.
I'm just waiting for the sport happening. Yeah. Thanks for your tweets today at Eamonn Holmes. Just reading through all of those. Back after this.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store. You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch.
You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh, my goodness me. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
The guy went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions.
I have no time for cultural totalitarianism.
We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
It's something that you would never want anyone to suffer.
I didn't know what channels there were. B, I didn't think I'd be believed.
I must have weighed about 7 stone and I'm 5'8". My instincts was to sort of cover this up. I mean, clearly that was a mistake.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m, where I'll be joined by 2 of the country's top comedians as we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight. If it's a big story, we'll be covering it, I guarantee, but we'll also have some fun along the way. That's GB News Headliners at 11 p.m. We won't put you to sleep, unlike some of the other paper review shows out there. So join us, 11 p.m, 7 nights a week.
Welcome back, 7:29. Still to come on the programme this morning.
7:45, Prince Harry speaking out about his brother's hair loss. He's a cheek, isn't he? We'll be joined by a hair loss specialist to talk alopecia, and she'll do a live demonstration to show us how to apply a really good hair piece.
Yeah, fascinating this. At 8:15, we'll be looking at Scotland's teacher strikes as the rest of the country looks set to follow them into industrial action. And you can join in any of our discussions. Email us, gbnews@gbnews.uk.
Or you can tweet at GB News or at Eamonn Holmes. Now let's look through the back pages. This is... Telegraph, first of all, the North London derby, Arsenal's victory in that one yesterday. They're 8 points clear at the top of the Premier League. A lot of people just not believing that is happening, but it is, well and truly. The Express, meanwhile, says shame is the spur after Arsenal goalkeeper Aaron Ramsdale was kicked by a Tottenham supporter after the full-time whistle. And finally, Mirror goes with Love and 8, praising the individual performance of the Arsenal captain, Mark Odegaard, who's enjoying the season of his life. Not enjoying the season of his life, Paul Coyte with me now in the studio to discuss these stories, because Paul is not only a Spurs supporter, but he has an official role there at the ground on match day. And we're talking about what happened on the pitch and what happened off the pitch. Where do you want to begin?
Closure. This is the reason I'm here. It's just to get it out of my system. So I can get it out of my system, talk about it, and it's done, and then we can move on. We better mention what happened off the pitch first. Should we get that out of the way?
Yeah.
This fan, there is a worry, and the PFA have said this, there is a worry at the moment with fans getting involved with players. Everton over the weekend with the demonstrations there, but some idiot. On the South stand at Tottenham at the end of the game, Aaron Ramsdale, the Arsenal goalkeeper, moves away, and he said there'd been a little exchanges between the fans and between him. He walks over, kisses the badge, all that. Yeah, we see it a million times. There's nothing wrong with that. So then he walks over to pick up his water bottle, and some idiot comes running down the stand, stands on the top, kicks out, catches his back. Could have been so much worse. Steward pushes him away. And then the thing is, just shows where the mind of these people are, if they have one. He actually goes to run away as if he's not going to get caught and hide himself in the middle of the crowd. Firstly, it's seen by millions around the world. Secondly, the goodness knows how many thousand are around him. And the club have rightly said straight away, we won't tolerate this. And as soon as he's going to be found, he's going to be banned. So he'll expect a knock on the door this morning, I'm sure.
Look, we've all seen it. We've all seen it close up and personal. You're like me. We're passionate about our teams. I can enjoy the banter, I can wind people up, I can do lots of things. I never want to break a bottle over somebody's head or commit violence on somebody because of all this. And actually, a thing that somewhat does annoy me is you talk about players kissing the badge, but players kissing each other after the game, hugging their mates, shaking before the game in the tunnel at Old Trafford on Saturday before the Derby game. And players embracing each other before going out. I thought it really strange. Not that should take away, not that should in any way
I know what you're saying. You don't want... You're going... No. This is like... The gladiators are going into battle. Let's put it down to that. I speak to old players who are absolutely livid when they say that. And they say, I can't believe they'd always have a drink afterwards, meet afterwards, shake hands, everything. But before you go in, you want to beat the other side. And I can't see that all the hugging and anyway.
Your mate.
That's why we never hug before this segment, isn't it?
No. Arsenal, how good are they looking? You were beaten by them. You know, do you think they were lucky? Do you think they were a better team on the day? What?
I think Arsenal were terrific, and I think they have been all season. The way I look at it, with Mikel Arteta, and we had Unai Emery came in after Arsene Wenger. Didn't work. Arteta comes in, changes things around, young manager, first job because he'd been working under Pep Guardiola and, of course, an Arsenal legend. And at the start, yes, he won the FA Cup, but it really wasn't working. So I honestly do think if he was the stopgap, if he'd come in earlier, I think the Arsenal board would have sacked him. I honestly do. But they knew they had no choice. They have to stick with this guy because he's now... We've got a project and we've got to stick with it. And it's just a great lesson for other clubs to show, look, it does work if you actually hang on. Clubs want to have success immediately. They all need success immediately, same as fans. But Arsenal now, it's paying dividends, what they've done. They're playing fantastic football. You see the way they play. Everybody knew where they were. They look like winners, and there's absolutely no reason why they can't win the Premier League.
No one would have thought Arsenal would have been leading the table for so long. No one thought Newcastle would be in the top 4, top 3 now. Late win against Fulham yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely. So another win for Newcastle. They're looking terrific. They're up there in the top 3, and exactly the same thing. They've done it the right way. Of course, there's a huge amount of money since the club's been bought, but it's being done very well. The right players are coming in. The manager, Eddie Howe's doing a good job. You know, and it's the same as Manchester United with Ten Hag. I've got to say that, Eamonn. Up there, and you know, and you've got to play Arsenal at the weekend.
Yeah.
And if Manchester United manage to win that, who knows where it's going to go? Who knows?
Yeah, title contenders.
Absolutely. Why not?
Who would have
Got
thought
the right
that?
guy.
What a
Absolutely
day
right
Saturday was, but what a day. It was just brilliant.
I do love the fact that I did say that goal, and you went, well, who cares?
Who cares? Who cares? He was deemed not to be interfering with play. That's it. Referee's decision's final.
OK, fine.
The Australian Open in tennis is underway as we speak.
It is. A few words about that. Nick Kyrgios. We all know about Nick Kyrgios, whether we love him or whether we hate him, but he's pulled out, knee injury, so he's not going to be taking part in the Australian Open, which is a shame. Emma Raducanu, she's beaten German Tamara Korpatsch, so she's through, but she's got to play the other young, brilliant Coco Gauff in the next round.
OK, so
we'll see how
Nadal
that
and
goes.
Draper on court now?
He is, Jack Draper, and right on the verge of being knocked out. He's playing the current champion, Rafa Nadal, lost the first set, and then Draper won the second set, and we're thinking something's on now, but lost the third 6-4, and I think we're literally points away from Rafa Nadal winning that one in 4 sets.
OK, my friend, we've got to wrap you. Blow the whistle on that one. Thank you. See you again in the morning.
I wasn't interfering with play, though, with that stage. OK, fine.
OK, no problem. Papers are going to be doing those. Hope you can join us right after this short break.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online, across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
Do you not believe in prison? I don't believe in prison.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
My name's Tom Harwood, and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing. You see, amazing.
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
Join me, Nana Akue, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun. Every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512.
Virgin Media Channel 604.
Freesat Channel 216.
Freeview Channel 236.
And YouView Channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB Plus Radio.
With the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back, it's 20 to 8. We're going through the papers. My favourite part of the programme, it has to be said. We've got the former editor of the Daily Star, Don Neeson, and the Olympian Chris Akabusi back to take us through. And Chris, you want to start with this Nepalese crash on the front of The Guardian this morning. And I've just seen on the wires that the black box has actually been found this morning, which is good news.
Yeah, that absolutely. I mean, that was one of the things I was wondering whether we'll have the black box to find out actually what happened. I picked this because... you know, I've flown in aircraft in developing countries, and I'm not quite sure. Now you said we've got the black box, we'll find out whether it was pilot error, other human error, or mechanical error. But, you know, this is a brand new airport, a plane going into this brand new airport at the foothills of the Himalayas, where many tourists go to climb and experience the area. And 68 people have lost their lives, and I think 15 or so.
They were, as I understand, they were minutes from landing, weren't they?
Yeah, and there was footage I saw yesterday of inside the aircraft of a passenger filming minutes before it crashed. Now, when I used to go to my parents' home country, it was Nigeria, I used to take internal flights. And at times I'd be in the internal flight and you'd see the stowage cabin was broken, the seat would be half broken. And you'd wonder whether, or I would wonder, whether the internal representation of the furniture had any sort of likeness to the mechanical
maintenance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
it's like you can judge a restaurant by its toilets.
Correct, exactly. And then I said, well, no, but then the pilots are jumping in. But then sometimes, and look, I don't know anything about this, obviously, but sometimes pilots will take the risk because they've got to take care of their family. So, I mean, I will be interested to see what the black box, but I've seen this, it is a tragedy because actually air travel is still, I believe, the safest mode of travel. But when something goes wrong,
you've got no chance.
It's absolutely...
Is there 76 people or so?
I think it was 68 people that have...
Awful.
Yeah,
and do you know what? The fact that it happened in Nepal, I've just noticed in news coverage, it's as if, well, it's less important.
No,
you know,
every single life.
And every plane journey, because we all learn from the mistakes.
100%. And they say, you know, if you are a world traveller, you are going to go to these countries, and you would hope that the similar standard that you would experience at home in the Western world is everywhere.
Except don't think it doesn't happen here, because you just go back to Kegworth on the M1,
Yes,
the British Midland flight, which
Yeah.
is not that long ago
Yeah.
now, a British Midland main carrier.
I've actually flown into the Himalayas
Have you?
to Lucknow Airport, and we were flying in an ex-Russian military helicopter, which is one of the best ways to do it, evidently, because they are quite well maintained. And it's one of the scariest landings ever. Not this airport, Lucknow, which is, I think, higher up, and because we were
That's the most
climbing.
dangerous airport in the world, isn't it?
It is, absolutely. And honestly, Eamonn, I mean, we were sitting on the floor of this helicopter, and it was like the runway is like that big, and it's like mountains all around it. So it's an amazing experience. But yeah, thankfully we made it.
Dawn, can we talk about the story in the Mail about this fatal dog attack? I was walking in the Surrey Hills, near to where that happened over the weekend, and I was thinking about it all and how frightening.
This is a really strange, because it happened on Thursday. It's near Caterham in Surrey, as you've quite rightly said. And it was reported over the weekend, but it didn't get huge amounts of coverage, and I really think it's been underplayed. This is a lady, she was a dog walker, she's 28 years old, and she was, doing, you often see them, don't you?
Yeah.
Sort of like loads of dogs on leave.
Too many dogs.
Too many. I mean, evidently, legally, it's meant to be 6, but she had 7 with her. And they turned on her and killed her, basically. I mean, it's appalling. And it's like, people sort of like walking past and riding past
It's
with
that
horses.
pack mentality, isn't it?
It is, and they turned on her, Eamonn. And one of the new line on this story is what they've found out one of the dogs was an 11-stone Leonberger. Am I pronouncing that correctly? I don't know what that breed is, but 11 stone of dog.
Yeah.
And it was called Shiva, which is after the Hindu god of destruction.
Yeah.
And it's got issues in the past. In 2017, this dog was on TV talking about how disobedient it was, and it seems to have anger management issues for a dog. But there were 7 animals in this particular pack, but some of them are only little like dachshunds and tiny
But they can
little
be
dogs.
worse. They can be worse.
Yeah.
And it can happen in an instant. I was once running. I used to run very early in the morning. So it was 5:30. I was running through the park, and a guy that I know had only 3 dogs. Great big Rottie. I owned a Rottie myself, and a big Rottie and the 2 small ones. And they came running up towards me, and I've been with dogs all my life, and so I was quite happy.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, the little one started yapping, and then this Rottie absolutely had this deep, menacing growl. And I went from, I'm being fine, to... And then the owner started hitting the dog, saying, leave it. And then he growled at his owner. And all of a sudden, I turned from being cool with animals to being really, really scared. And I knew that, if this thing attacked me, and I'm really comfortable with dogs, I had no chance. Because the owner wasn't in control.
No.
The dog, and see, dogs are animals. And it's, you can have them well and under control. And so I love my dogs. I mean, they're not with me now, they passed away. But when they switch and they go, they go.
And it happens every month. I mean, every month in this country, and it's shocking. It
Do
really
seem
is.
When you have to be worried about a dog, its tail tells you,
Really?
the difference is...
It's not wagging.
No, if a tail is upwards, you're fine. If the tail goes between the dog's legs, downwards, you're in big trouble. Yeah.
I thought that was when they were scared.
I thought they were scared. If a dog had his tail down, I wouldn't be worried. But for me, it's a very clear sign. Its teeth are
When he's got his teeth out,
his teeth then I know I'm in trouble.
Run.
And this big thing, I mean, the size of his head, and it was after me.
But it is amazing, because we're also talking about, I don't know of any other creature that can give so much love.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Yeah. Whenever you come home, the missus might not be up for you, the kids might be upset, but your dog is there. I mean, 100%, 100%.
Cats are good too. Anyway, I want to talk about this story, Chris, in the Mail as well, on children's self-harming rates, because I think it ties in really appropriately with what's happening in Scotland, the strikes happening there, and the talk of strikes happening south of the border.
Yeah.
We know how big the mental health crisis is within young people. We know how that links back to the lockdowns as well.
Yeah.
And these rates that they're talking about,
it's quite shocking. It's quite shocking. And we've done really, really well in the last 20 years of trying to equate mental health with physical illness, recognising that there is a parity. But the Express is blaming the consequences or unintended consequences of lockdown. And if you think, the 10-year-olds who went through, I was saying Dawn earlier on in the green room, and I've got a young girl, she's 12, and she still talks about COVID and lockdowns, she still live with the rest of her life. And so for some of these young people, it was 20% of their life. And the paper talks about you know, things like, you know, paracetamol being readily available in most people's homes, or the drinks cabinet, and one child every 20 minutes being rushed to hospital for a drug overdose. Now,
are these accidents? Are these deliberate?
No, but
deliberate.
It's self-harming. It's self-harming, yeah. Self-harming to drugs and alcohol overdoses. Because, again, for the stress reaction and the mental health issues... Then they're saying because of the lockdown and the social media and the return to school. And if you imagine, you were locked down for 2.5 years, all of a sudden you go from being 10 to 12 and you're in exams, a high pressure situation, parents wanting the best for you, you've got out of their habit, and there's all sorts of stresses. Social media is also an issue that the young people have today that we didn't have in our day. And I was really alarmed with this story.
We're talking about children as young as 10.
As 10 years of age, exactly.
Are self-harming with drugs and alcohol.
Yeah.
Shocking. How no one saw this coming during the pandemic is beyond me.
Well, and as you were saying earlier on, Dawn, as well, you know, when you think some of the living situations these youngsters have had to cope with, you know, in an apartment with mum and dad really angry with each other.
Well, very disturbing subject and shocking. One child goes to hospital every 20 minutes after self-harming with drugs or alcohol. Your views, your comments, very, very welcome, guys. We'll say goodbye to you. See you again in 45 minutes' time.
It's 7:50. Let's bring you up to date with this morning's top stories. And teachers in Scotland are beginning their 16 days of rolling strike action. It comes after the Scottish Government offered a 5% pay offer on Thursday, but union members demand 10%.
The FA has strongly condemned the incident which saw the Arsenal goalkeeper Aaron Ramsdale attacked by a Tottenham fan after his side's victory over Spurs in the North London derby. The FA said it will work to ensure appropriate action is taken.
British and Irish talent were left disappointed after being snubbed in every major category during the 28th Critics' Choice Awards. The Best Director award went to Daniel Kwan and Daniel Scheinert for their film Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. And Colin Farrell was beaten by Brendan Fraser in the Best Actor category.
Drivers have been urged to watch out for icy conditions during rush hour today. Met Office has issued a yellow warning for ice across Britain until 10 a.m. tomorrow, with an exception of Scotland, where snow's forecast to continue for the next couple of days. Right, we're going to talk about hair now, and obviously for most of us, hair is a point of pride, of vanity, and losing it can come as a big shock, particularly if you're a woman.
Yeah, well, even Prince Harry recently described the Prince of Wales's thinning hair as alarming. Well, here with some tips is celebrity hairstylist and hair loss specialist Inach Amir and model Jen Jeers. Good morning to both of you. Thanks for coming in this morning.
Thank you for having us.
Talk us through some of your top tips then. What have you got here?
Well, basically, we're just going to do a very quick demo because hair loss is something that makes people lose their confidence. So it's just giving people that confidence back, really. So we're just going to show you, if you've been to see a dermatologist and you've done everything else and there's nothing else left, then there's hair pieces that we can apply.
Okay.
So
and this would be instead of, say, a hair transplant?
Yeah, basically.
Perhaps if it's too late for you to have a hair transplant.
That's it. And also, some people's body refuses a hair transplant, so it kicks it out because it's a foreign body.
We don't know, Jen Jeers. I haven't met you before, my friend, or whatever. You know why sometimes you look at someone and say, they wouldn't suit hair? You know, you look very good. Is your confidence in any way harmed by not having hair?
Yes and no, depending on what it is. I lost my hair at 21. So it's something that I've always wanted, but this is an option I'm trying out.
That must be a big blow, being so young, and that made you just feel quite insecure, did it? And
yes, as you're growing up, people say things that they shouldn't say. So yes, you do suffer over your life.
So well, let's see you with hair. Let's see how this is going to go, Inach. What's your plan here?
So basically, we've already applied adhesive on Jengiz's hair. because we didn't have a lot of time, and we applied adhesive on his hair, on his scalp and on the hairpiece, and now we will just apply it. But you might
And would
need
you
to
do this at
roll
home
down.
before a night out or something like that?
This lasts about a month.
Oh,
So
okay.
can you roll down in your chair a little bit for me, Jenkins? Only because it's...
Oh, there we go.
Thank you.
When you say it lasts about a month, but can you go into a shower with that?
Yeah, you can swim with it, sleep in it. It lasts a month. You come back to the salon, we remove it, we clean your scalp, make sure there's no issues on your scalp, and then ready to go again.
Wow. And does the adhesive feel funny on your head? Or
Well,
does
he'll
does
have
it
to
feel
tell
tight?
us.
You have to tell us.
Yes, because he's actually never done this before.
Gengis, how does the glue feel on your head at the minute before the...
Before the piece has gone on, don't feel anything.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Gosh, that looks amazing already.
Yeah, I mean, you know, in the 70s, all these wigs were regarded as, you know, mockery and
Yeah.
whatever. So it'll be very, very interesting to see just how natural. Yes,
That's
look,
amazing.
yes, that's very, very good.
What would that cost you?
Well,
You begin to look like me. Do you know that?
It's your hair.
It's my hair. You've got. Yeah.
Well, if ever you need a day off.
There you go. So basically, the wigs start from £500 and they can go up to £5,000, depending on the length, the colour, the area you're covering. So usually we do a
expensive
template.
for a month then, isn't it?
No, what I mean is the piece costs you that much,
Oh, right.
but you don't pay that every month. So the piece will last you a year.
Okay.
And then every month you come in, you have it washed, you have it removed, all of that. So it costs about £300 every month to have it removed and reapplied. But the actual piece you don't have to buy every time.
I've always wanted to be like Mel Gibson in Braveheart.
Well, let's do it.
Stick something. Let me see what I'd look like with more.
Well, you know, it does need to be cut and styled, but...
This is going to be brilliant. Oh, Eamonn.
Oh.
I don't know who you look like, but Boris Johnson.
Like I said, it does
Maybe
need
you're
to
right.
be
Maybe
cut.
it just needs a bit more grooming.
Needs a bit more
to it. That
grooming.
would be fine.
And what about the girl
And that's dead on. That's dead on afterwards. That didn't even come off.
But it just shows you, like, it is... I don't know if you want to do a close-up of this, but it is skin.
But you know the great thing you offer now is you offer hope where there was no hope before.
This is
and no sort of stigma with it, because honestly, my friend, I'd look at you now
You wouldn't.
and
Obviously, it needs to be styled.
a bit more grooming and styling, you wouldn't know the difference.
And that's the good thing with these. You know, you can choose your skin colour so that you don't see. So when you have a close-up of that...
Yeah.
It's not like the old-fashioned lace where you could see the lace and stuff like
Does it
that.
feel itchy on your head?
Not at all.
I mean,
Very
presumably
comfortable.
If someone goes to the gym with one of those on, they are going to feel a bit itchy. I mean, I wouldn't expect
I don't know.
Yeah.
I wouldn't like to comment on that, but at the moment it feels very comfortable.
But Jen Jules, you would wear that. You would wear that, would you?
Well, to be honest, I haven't seen it. So.
There you go. What do you think?
Yes, definitely I would.
You would.
You're stuck with it for a month now.
I think you got a customer in Hatch after that.
I know.
Thank you very much indeed, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Talking about that, because I mean, if it is a particular cause of distress to you, if you wear a what do they call them? A syrup of figs, a wig.
Oh, right, yeah.
That's what, it's Cockney rhyming slang,
Sorry,
isn't
I
it?
thought it was toupee was what I thought you were talking about there. By the way, if you're listening on the radio, I should say you can watch that back on our app. You can see it if you want to have a look, because it's a very visual little element, that, but it's definitely worth checking out on our app.
OK, we're going to take a break there. More on the Prime Minister's plan to stop protests from groups like Extinction Rebellion and Just Stop Oil. Back after this.
This year on GB News, we've got brand new members in the family.
Join us. Across the entire United Kingdom, we cover the issues that matter to you.
GB News will always stay honest, balanced and fair. We want to hear whatever is on your mind.
And we don't talk down to you.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you. Britain's watching.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Join me, Lawrence Fox, on GB News. Frank,
fun, fearless, and sometimes serious. Much as I love a Friday night punch-up, what I really want is a battle of ideas. I want to look at things differently. I want to hear different voices and engage with your unique experiences. Every Friday at 7 p.m. on GB News.
I'm Michael Portillo. Join me on GB News on a Sunday morning for topical discussion, debate, arts and culture, and sometimes even ethical dilemmas.
I don't always agree with you, Michael.
Michael Portillo, Sundays on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
Hello there, it's Eamonn Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and tune-in apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
The guy went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions. I have no time for cultural totalitarianism. We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
Prime Minister prepares new police powers to crack down on eco-protesters.
Good morning. It's just after 8 o'clock. It's Monday, the 16th of January. You're watching and listening to Breakfast on GB News with Eamonn and Isabel.
Here's what's leading the news this morning. Rishi Sunak will give the police new tools to stop disruptions by groups like Extinction Rebellion and Just Stop Oil. The Prime Minister will say that the legislation is aimed at cracking down on guerrilla tactics.
Ministers will push for schools to allow classes for GCSE and A-level pupils if unions announce today that teachers are going on strike.
A 22-year-old man's been arrested on suspicion of attempted murder after the drive-by shooting in central London on Saturday. 4 women and 2 children were injured.
And yellow weather warnings are in effect this morning across England, Wales, Northern Ireland and Scotland, with snow expected across most of the country.
OK, your views coming in, particularly on the NHS, with the Labour leader Keir Starmer planning to do away with having to go to your GP to get a referral to a specialist. Brian in Norfolk, he makes a very interesting point. He says the trouble with the NHS is that we are a 24/7 society, they are part-time. And I know what he means with that, really, with so much of it closing down at night and weekends.
Yeah, Nada says R.E. Starmer's plan, specialists are expensive, wasting their time with the wrong complaint is also wasteful. And Stephen Devon says, over the last 3 years, I've been to my GP who's told me he's not able to refer me to a consultant, but had to first make an appointment with a physiotherapist who would then refer me to a consultant. That's confusing, isn't it?
Yeah, apparently also a bit confusing is what I said about dogs' tails indicating aggression. John in Newcastle, John, you've checked it out and you say that if the tail is vertical or arched over the dog's back, you are in trouble. That signifies aggression.
There we go. Right, our top story this hour, Rishi Sunak is to announce an expansion to police powers that would give officers the ability to stop disruption before it begins.
He'll claim that he's answering calls from police chiefs who are asking for clarity on how to tackle guerrilla tactics by eco-protesters.
Well, speaking yesterday, the policing minister, Chris Philp, responded to claims this was a crackdown on the right to protest.
Of course we, as a government, fully respect the right to protest, but that does need to be properly balanced with the right of the general public to go about their day-to-day lives. And where some of these protesters have been deliberately trying to ruin the lives of their fellow citizens, we think that is not acceptable. But it's possible to protest while at the same time allowing ordinary citizens to go about their daily lives.
Let's go to Olivia Utley now, our political reporter on this one this morning. Olivia, good morning to you. Where are we at with all of this? What would you like to add?
Well, yes, so it's an amendment to the Public Order Bill, which was already pretty controversial last year, and it's a change that the ministers are set to actually announce today. What it would entail is a crackdown on slow walking protests, which was a massive problem last year. We saw Extinction Rebellion walking very slowly on the roads, causing traffic to come to a complete standstill in London, but the police being unable to intervene because there was no clarity on whether slow walking causes serious disruption. So this is essentially a clarification of the definition of what serious disruption means. It also means, which is probably the most important thing, that police can consider action in a series of protests rather than just an individual incident. So if a group like Extinction Rebellion or Just Stop Oil are causing mayhem again and again, that can be considered as a disruptive protest rather than just assessing each individual incident. So it's quite a big change to our protest laws and may well come up against some quite serious opposition. But for the police, it's very useful because what they've been struggling with so far is just a total lack of clarity on when they are allowed to intervene and when they're not.
Interesting, because we spoke to a former police officer this morning who said he thinks the police have enough powers. It's actually the courts that are causing lots of problems within the justice system. But certainly the front of the Guardian up in arms and lots of libertarians saying that this would be an impact on the right to free speech. And that's going to be a tight path for the Prime Minister to navigate in all of this.
Well, absolutely, because yes, as you say, you've got the libertarians on one side worrying about the right to free speech, and then you've got the Labour Party, a lot of the Labour Party, who believe that, these sort of protesters, Just Stop Oil, Extinction Rebellion, should be able to have their say. So yes, Rishi Sunak will be walking a tightrope, but his calculation seems to be that the public, at least, will be on side on this issue. The public, in polls, is suggested is pretty unified behind the idea that protests such as this shouldn't be able to disrupt the day-to-day life of ordinary working people. And as the police chiefs are behind him, that does help him quite a lot.
It comes to strikes as well, the impact that has on ordinary people. That's been the argument very much of the government, hasn't it, that they don't want this impacting ordinary people too much. Now with the talk of school closures again, this is going to upset people a lot. And I want to read you an email that's come into us at GBViews from Nicola Finch. As a parent whose child was a sixth former during the pandemic, I saw firsthand the dismal quality of education they received during the lockdowns. I disagree with teachers striking. She goes on to say, it should be remembered it was the teaching unions who were screaming for schools to be closed when lockdown was implemented. And we all know the damage that has done to pupils. So this is going to be a really unpopular move if we find out today that teachers in England are also going on strike like those in Scotland.
Yeah, there'll be sort of general horror from parents at the idea of online learning, which was very unsatisfactory in lots of ways, returning. At the moment, what the government's trying to do is essentially plead with the teachers to teach GCSE and A-level pupils and to allow exams to go ahead. But they've got no certainty on that because ministers have no legal right to do that. We know that the minimum service legislation, which is hotly debated, is going to be coming through Parliament this parliamentary term, but there's no chance that it's going to get anywhere before the summer, which will be far too late for these strikes. So essentially it's a question of ministers begging teachers to allow pupils to sit exams. Otherwise, yes, the prospect of a return to online learning is very much on the cards.
Learning. does Rishi Sunak not learn anything, I suppose, from getting into scuffles with Nicola Sturgeon? And they're doing this over these new transitioning laws in Scotland, we hear, where basically any confrontation with the SNP is just going to lead to more anti-Westminster talk, isn't it?
Well, yes. I mean, the issue is that there is a suggestion that Nicola Sturgeon, one of her motivations in introducing this very, very controversial gender recognition reform bill and doing it so quickly was essentially in order to pick a constitutional fight with Westminster. Now, I'm not saying that's certainly the case, but those are the sort of murmurings going on, because it would be very difficult for Rishi Sunak to ignore the gender recognition bill in Scotland because of the ramifications it would have in England. So you could have a situation, for example, where someone in Scotland who is awaiting a male-bodied person in Scotland awaiting trial for sexual offences could gain a gender recognition certificate and then come down to England and end up going to a women's prison, and that obviously has a serious impact on people in England. So Rishi Sunak, it would be difficult for him to ignore this law. Having a differing definition of what a woman is on either side of the border does create a sort of legal can of worms. But as you say, it has resulted in a new front line in the sort of war against the SNP. And you've got Nicola Sturgeon and Stephen Flynn, the SNP man in Westminster, both saying that this is now an issue of democracy, and if Westminster block the royal assent of a bill that has the agreement of Holyrood that's been passed with a big majority in Holyrood, then that would count as Westminster, putting a roadblock on Scottish democracy. So this is exploding into quite a big row over what is essentially quite a niche issue.
0.5% of the population identify as transgender, but as you say, has the potential to be a much bigger issue. Olivia Utley, thank you very much indeed for all of that analysis.
A man has been arrested on suspicion of attempted murder after that shooting in North London, which left 6 people injured, including a 7-year-old child who remains in a critical condition.
Well, here's former police officer Graham Whetton. He says tracking and investigating gang violence in the UK is still a problem for modern policing.
Again, building your trust and relationships with communities to get the information about either people carrying knives or carrying firearms or holding firearms illegally, and then the propensity or the capacity to go out and actually use them, and actually using that information to try and prevent it.
Graham, but the thing that gets me is that there seems to be a confidence. Either the people who are using, and we have been down this, as Isabel said, with knife crime before, that they use knives with impunity or they've got a defence about this. Is the defence for using a gun the same as it would be for using a knife? Well, I had it to protect myself.
Yeah, similarly. And we see it a lot with gangs involved in organised crime, be it drugs or whatever criminality they're involved in. It's actually to protect what they've got, protect their area, protect whatever criminal activities are taking place, so they get them to actually protect themselves against other criminals.
Well, for the latest, we can go to our reporter, Theo Jacumba, who is in Euston for us this morning. Good morning to you, Theo. Look, there has been an arrest overnight. Of course, that means that this case is very much active and we're limited in what we can say. But I suppose a lot of people this morning will be wondering, are we seeing a rise in gun crime in this country?
Good morning. Yes, that is one thing to consider, but the police have described this as a senseless act of violence. So here on Saturday afternoon, around 300 people were here for a memorial service for Sarah Sanchez, 20-year-old who died from leukemia, as well as her mother who died in the same month. It's been a challenging few days for those who live in this community as that event took place, where a car drove past and a shotgun was fired. Now, a number of people have been injured, including 4 women and 2 children. One of them, a 12-year-old, sustained a leg injury, and a 7-year-old remains in a stable but life-threatening condition. As you just mentioned, the Metropolitan Police in the early hours of this morning confirmed that a 22-year-old man was arrested just before 4 p.m. yesterday in Barnet in London, and he is currently in custody. Now, in terms of the response to this, the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, has described this as deeply distressing, and the Home Secretary, Suella Braverman, wrote on her Twitter saying that she's deeply concerned by the shocking incident. Now, in terms of the Metropolitan Police, they are asking if anybody saw or heard anything, please get in touch. So that's the latest. We know we'll be keeping an eye on some of those people who are in hospital at the moment.
Very much indeed.
School children in Scotland are going to miss more lessons this week. Teachers are planning 16 days of strike action in the continuing dispute over pay.
Well, this comes as the UK's largest teaching union organised a ballot of 300,000 members calling for a fully funded above-inflation pay rise. And we're yet to see exactly what the results of the ballot would be here south of the border. Look, a lot of my friends who are teachers will say, you know, what else can they do? They want to try and get the message loud and clear that they are not able to afford the cost of living crisis with the current wages. And yet, as we know and have seen and reported on so many times, children up and down this country suffered so much as a result of the lockdowns, that online learning, so many people preparing for exams at this time of year as well.
With all due respect, that doesn't pay a teacher's bills.
No, I know. So what's the solution, though? Did the kids suffer for the teachers' bills? What's the solution?
Well, you know, it's hard enough. We heard the police officer earlier on talking about you cannot retain police officers. We hear people saying you cannot retain nurses because we're not valuing people. We've got to draw a line in the sand and say these are careers worth entering into, and the children who are being educated, instead of educating as we do in Ireland, we educate children for export around the world to the rest of the UK and whatever. You've got to retain the people that we are
paying them more.
Educating.
How do you pay for that? By higher taxes?
They'll work out a way,
problem.
don't worry. Let's go to our New Scotland reporter. Not that it's New Scotland, he is new for Scotland. He is our reporter, Tony Maguire. And we say hello, good morning. And
Good
welcome,
morning.
Tony. When did you finish school, Tony? Last year?
Thank you so much. Probably about 15 years ago, Eamonn.
Cheeky.
Right. Okay, my friend. What have you got to tell us this morning?
So, of course, today starts the first day of 16 days of rolling strikes across Scotland for teachers. What we are seeing is, behind me right now, is one of the picket lines at Hillhead in Glasgow. What we know at the minute, obviously, is that the teachers are asking for 10% rise, and the Scottish Government say that that is unaffordable.
That inflation, or at least that's the expressed desire of the Chancellor, is to be brought down to around 5% by the end of the year. So they are asking for twice inflation. And many people will say, you know, in a cost of living crisis, we've already got taxes at record highs. It's just unaffordable to pay more.
Exactly, and I think that certainly just now with teachers, you know, we've seen similar requests come from the transport sector. We're seeing similar requests from down in England, and I think that teachers will be looking at the current financial burden. Certainly what we see is a cyclical deterioration of teachers' conditions, according to EIS, who is of course the leading teaching union in Scotland. And the teachers will be hoping to continue with strikes into February and March this year.
Provision of the teachers providing for students there then? Are they doing online lessons? Because presumably if they're on strike, they're not going to be online, are they, like they were during lockdown working from home? We see on the front of the Telegraph today, those schools that are planning to close are under pressure from government here in Westminster to at least provide some sort of schooling for GCSE A-level pupils. I mean, what's the situation in Scotland with the 16 days?
I think the attitude just now is that schools that are unable to cope with the pupil burden will close for the day. Certainly this round of strikes, each local authority, 2 local authorities a day, will be going on strike, and we can expect most of those pupils to stay at home. When we move into February and March later in the year, and those strikes what we're expecting to see is each local authority will close for 3 consecutive days on schools that are affected. This, of course, brings back lots of memories from 1984 to 86. And actually, a lot of pupils that would have been affected back then will now be parents going through the motions once again.
Tony, just a quick word about this transitioning bill in Scotland and Westminster interference on it. What way will that be viewed? I mean, will this be welcomed by the SNP despite sort of any protests that they may have publicly? Because it basically shows the Isle enemy again, does it not?
I think what we are seeing with the gender recognition bill is that, you know, one way or another, this is going to be a boon for Nicola Sturgeon. However, it's Rishi Sunak, I think, that is between a rock and a hard place right now.
You're in a hard place.
Yes, a rock and a hard place. That van nearly squashed you there. So
I hope you're safe.
Yeah, we'll
let you go.
Yeah, while
the
you
joys
still
of the
can.
job.
Thank you for that first day on the job, and he would have been killed. That would have been
Don't say
it.
that.
Thank you very much indeed, Tony. With the time at 18 minutes past 8, here is what's happening news-wise. And retailers Marks & Spencer has announced proposals to open 20 new shops across the UK. The store overhaul is planned to create over 3,000 jobs.
A British woman's died in an avalanche whilst trekking in the French Alps. Local authorities say she was taken from the mountain by rescuers with a helicopter, but they were unable to save her life.
Drivers have been urged to watch out for icy conditions today during the rush hour. The Met Office has issued a yellow warning for ice across the UK until 10 a.m. tomorrow, I assume that is, or is 10 a.m. today, 10 a.m. today, with the exception of Scotland, where the snow's forecast to continue into the afternoon.
Speaking of treacherous conditions,
Oh.
yeah, what's it like at home at the moment? Any sort of gadgets to help you get about?
Well, it's, the newspapers are reporting today that they're pointing out that my house is not a fun fair. It's not available for birthdays, bar mitzvahs, weddings, stag do's or anything else.
No!
This is after Rylan, the TV legend and radio legend, called in to pay me a visit yesterday, because some people have some friends that call and see if I'm okay of a Sunday. Some people don't bother. Some people just work with you during the week and then never really bother with you. Don't bring you any soup or sweeties or grapes or Lucozade or anything like that.
Oh, my goodness me.
You know, people like that. But anyway, they make a complaint that they've got small children and they have other things to do. But anyway, loneliness is an awful thing. Anyway, Rylan called for me, and this is my house. It's not a fun fair, but
looks pretty fun.
It has got certain appliances that Ryland assumed were available for rental. Have a look.
Hang on, wait, stop speaking. Don't bloody break it.
Can I just do it now? Yeah. It's the noise.
Yeah, here we go.
Oh, this is great.
Excuse me, are you Rylan? Could I have your autograph?
Can I just say, I know you've been through it, Dad, but you've got an easy life here.
It's a fun fair, it's a fun palace.
Honestly, you could rent.
And we should say the reason you're shouting from the distance is you were stuck, marooned.
Yeah, and he's saying there you could make a fortune out of renting this out. He said, but it's not a fun ride. It's there as a medical necessity. You know what I thought was a very interesting story that we've just come across now? This expansion by Marks & Spencer is creating 3,000 new jobs and so many new stores around the country. Does that buck the trend or what?
Yeah.
They say the high street's dying.
Yeah, actually, they've had some quite tricky sales figures recently, so I'm very surprised to see it. But new jobs always a good story.
It may be a food concentrated type thing, or it may be smaller stores, but still it is. It's a very, very interesting thing with this economic downturn at the moment. Right, we'll go to the break there after that.
Well, we're talking about Blue Monday. Are you feeling a bit down in the dumps? Because if you are, don't worry, it's actually quite standard on this day of the year. It is the most depressing one. We'll find out why and how to combat it after this.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store. You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch.
You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh my goodness me! And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
There's a guy who went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions.
I have no time for cultural totalitarianism.
We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
It's something that you would never want anyone to suffer.
I didn't know what channels there were. I didn't think I'd be believed.
I must have weighed about 7 stone and I'm 5'8". My instincts was to sort of cover this up. I mean, clearly that was a mistake.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m, where I'll be joined by 2 of the country's top comedians as we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight. If it's a big story, we'll be covering it, I guarantee, but we'll also have some fun along the way. That's GB News Headliners at 11 p.m. We won't put you to sleep, unlike some of the other paper review shows out there. So join us, 11 p.m, 7 nights a week.
Welcome back. It's 8:25. Still to come on the programme this morning.
At 8:45, as more young people socialise through online games, we're going to talk to parents concerned about the risks to their children.
At 9:15, as the cold weather is due to set in this week, we'll be looking at the dangers of cold water swimming and ask an expert how to take part in the activity as safely as possible.
So many people do it.
Yeah,
if you do it, let us know about that. But I remember someone telling me they do it, and I said to them, you know, where did they do it? And they were telling me, and they do it naked.
Oh, right, okay.
Apparently there's a whole group of them
really?
that do it naked.
Oh. I have a friend who does the Serpentine every morning at 5:30 on his way to work. Yeah.
What? So gets out of that?
Yeah, and then heads to work. I know.
Dripping.
It's not for me.
Dripping.
It's not for me. Well, I'm sure he dries off before he goes.
And where would you dry off? Would there ever
His
change?
towel by the side of the river. Not for me anyway, but let us know your stories.
No.
We're talking about that a little bit later on.
I'd do the naked one.
Oh, God.
I'll say, Isabel, you don't even notice after a while the cold or the nakedness, apparently.
Well, I don't want to talk about the impact of the cold on the nakedness. That's another story.
Okay.
It is the third Monday in January today, and what does that mean?
It means it's the 16th of January. That's what it means. Well, it means outside here, I don't know what it's like. It's cold, it's wet, it's rainy, it's snowy in some places as well.
Because we've got paid before Christmas. So
yeah.
we have to stretch our pay packet
and people
a bit
give up their, what are they called? Their resolutions.
Oh.
No, I know people who they say they're not going to do a certain thing for the whole of January, and then it gets to last Friday, and they break all their promises.
I don't know anyone like that.
They break, people who say they're going to stay off the demon drink, the devil's buttermilk, and then they overindulge.
Yeah, but that's probably the right thing to do to tackle Blue Monday.
See, I think this thing of Blue Monday and all this nonsense is it affects hospitality, catering, the drinks industry. It just turns the whole economy down. It's miserable. I don't think look how miserable you've been this month. Look. What? And you're only good. You get a few drinks in you, and you're a whole new person. Whole new person.
Look, it's not me that's calling it this. Samaritans say they've seen a big uptick in calls, in demand. Let's speak now to psychologist Emma Kenny, who joins us with her insight into this. Is this a thing? Are people really down in the dumps at the moment?
I mean, I don't think today is actually a specific statistical day. I think it was a marketing tactic, but I also think it kind of sheds a light on the fact that January can be a bit depressing. Like you just said, all the things you just noted, you spent loads of money at Christmas, you've been together with people that you love, had a bit of downtime, and then the consequence of that is you go into January and things haven't necessarily changed. People do break the resolutions, and that means that people are feeling that maybe they overwhelm themselves with this idea of what needed to change and it hasn't changed, and so you can feel a bit low. But I also think it's really important to not necessarily get stuck on this idea of this is going to be terrible, it's going to be a bad day, feel it. Because I think we've prescribed sadness and unhappiness for quite a long time and told people how they're meant to feel excessively in the past few years. So maybe it's about saying, well, we don't need to tie into that day, and there are things that we can do anyway to alleviate some of those symptoms if we do feel low.
What's the antidote to that, Emma? What would you say? I mean, we talk about how dark it is, the days are short, people don't want to go out, the cost of living crisis, very, very difficult for so many people, and loneliness, as the Samaritans identify, and they're trying to call Blue Monday Brew Monday, which means get a cup of something, share it with somebody, have a bit of company.
Cheers to that.
I think the Samaritans are absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. They really are, because what they're saying there is a lot of healing and antidotes within our society that we forget. So the most important thing for loneliness is connection. It's an emotional prompt. It says, what am I feeling? I'm feeling alone. I'm feeling potentially isolated, maybe a little bit abandoned. What do I need? The prompt is I need connection. I need relational experience. And actually, there's so much power in people realizing that as a human being, just extending kindness and care and compassion to another human being, it's such a powerful tool, and often we underestimate it because we have necessarily sense of ourselves not necessarily being that important in life. We forget that we can be hugely important to another human being, and that's reciprocal. When we offer and extend that, and then we have that reciprocated because people feel good about the way that we're treating them, that in itself lifts our mood, and also it means that there's a lot of power that we can harness in our society. We've medicalised a lot of these things, as opposed to realising that the real prescription of happiness is about close connection, close bonds, doing things that are good for other people, make sure you exercise, get yourself outside for at least 40 minutes a day. And I mean that even if you're somebody who's an issue with a wheelchair, for example, doesn't mean you can't sit outside wrapped up in the white light for at least 40 minutes, because that's essential for the way that our hormones and our chemicals in our brain regulate things like melatonin, stop us feeling sluggish, also what you put in your body. If you're eating loads of refined and processed food, you're not going to feel great. They're all things that are within your control, that aren't anything to do with the medical system or therapy system either. So we can really harness a lot of that good for the benefit of ourselves and the community around us. So I'm completely on board with what the Samaritans are saying. I think it's a brilliant message.
I like that. And if we know anyone who we think might be lonely, we should,
Right.
As you say, extend that olive branch, be friendly, because not only is it good for them, but it can be good for you as well. So in a way, it's a win-win. Whilst we've got you, can I just ask your opinion? Look, there's lots of talk about schools going on strike, and I don't want to get into the politics of whether it's right or not to ask for more pay. That is a legitimate argument. But what about the known impacts of schools being closed on young people? As a psychologist, are you seeing kids with real impacts from that?
I mean, I think we've abandoned safeguarding of children for the last 3 years. So I think that young people are unfortunately way behind where they should be. They believe 25% developmentally where they should actually be. So, of course, I have massive concerns about that. Like you, politically, I think strikes are really important because I think that people need to assert their rights. And I'm a big believer in protest. But I think as far as children are concerned, we need to do a huge amount in our society to catch up with the harms that have been created by the last 3 years. It's multifaceted, it's multi-impactful, and to be fair, from my career base, it's shameful.
Okay, well, very powerfully put, Lucy Kenny. Always good to Emma Kenny. Even don't know why I call you Lucy Kenny. I used to work with a Lucy Kenny.
Did you? Hello, Lucy Kenny.
I'm so sorry, Emma.
It's fine.
Just came out. Emma, lovely to see you as always. Thank you very much.
And making blue look cool.
Yes,
Blue's looking good.
On Blue Monday.
I wore it for the thing. I'm going to go off naked swimming now. That's what I'm going to do after listening to you this morning. Just off to get in the local lake naked.
Love it, Emma Kenny. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. This whole teachers' pay and the possibility of teacher strikes and the reality of teacher strikes in Scotland. Stephanie says, please understand that teachers may be striking because a pay rise has to come from existing budgets. And I think a lot of people forget that. It's not coming from central government or local authority. It's saying, here is your budget for the year. You want to have pay rises? Fine. But then that means there's going to be less teachers or less classrooms or less trips, less resources, whatever, which is not the way to do this. It really is. Dave says, I support the teachers. The parents of many children take no interest except to harangue them when their child is disciplined for anything, meaning harangue the teachers. And some kids are feral but can't be removed permanently. What do we expect? Teachers leaving the state sector school system, says Dave. Incidentally, in Happy Valley last night, there's a teacher which one of the children confided in. Take it from me, that teacher is evil. That particular teacher, I'm not saying all teachers are evil, that teacher is evil.
Okay.
That teacher's evil. It's a bad move.
All right.
Bad move. Claire's grandson. Isabel, I can't understand. You don't watch this programme.
I don't watch much TV. I'm really sorry.
No, that's a lie. That's also a lie. You do watch lots of TV.
I don't watch much. I really don't. Maybe I've watched 20 minutes all weekend since I last saw you. Really? Maximum.
What are you doing with yourself? Sleeping?
Running around.
Scratching yourself? What are you doing?
Running around. I don't know. I was out Friday night.
Drinking. That's what it is. Sitting there, the wine bottle is your friend. That's really... I'm sorry.
Unbelievable.
The truth hurts. The truth hurts. We're going to go through the paper. Do you know what a great antidote to Blue Monday is? Chris Akabusi.
Oh, he's wonderful.
To anything.
His laugh.
He is.
Bottle it.
He's rubbish on the papers, but he's very funny. He's very, very good. He's full of energy. He has bottled sunshine. And then we have Dawn Neeson.
Oh, stop it. She's wonderful. We'll see you in a sec.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online, across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
Do you not believe in prison? I don't believe in prison.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
My name's Tom Harwood and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us. We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing. You see, amazing.
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
Join me, Nana Akue, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun. Every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512.
Virgin Media Channel 604.
Freesat Channel 216.
Freeview Channel 236.
And YouView Channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB Plus Radio.
With the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We've got Dawn and we've got Chris again. They're going through your newspapers. And Dawn, even you will agree with me on this, that when it comes to brightening people up on a blue Monday, on any Monday, who better than your cohort here? Mr. Bottle Sunshine himself.
I was once introduced on stage as Akabusi, the guy with the gregarious laugh, which is very hard to ignore, but well worth the effort. So there you go.
Well done. It is a gift, mate. It is a gift.
No, some people love it, other people hate it, but
no, they don't.
Wherever I go, I'll bring a little bit of sunshine, a little bit. Someone say to me, Akabusi, turn it down a little bit.
But listen. No, you are good, and people always do say when you come on, not only do you talk sense and you're interesting to listen to, but you bring laughter, and laughter is contagious.
No, absolutely. Yeah. Meanwhile, that blonde bird on the end, get rid of her.
No,
shall we talk about my story? You can say nice things about me if you want.
Yeah. So tell us about today and the effects of today, Blue Monday.
No, I'm not going to now because you weren't nice. You were nice to him. Anyways, this is the Daily Star, great columnist. This is basically, today is the most depressing day of the year, unless you're working with Chris Ovs. And it's basically, it's January, we're all skin, gloomy weather, long nights, paying those credit card bills off. And basically, so officially, it's the day that we all skive off work as well, because we're all too depressed to go to work. Obviously, Chris Akabusi accepted.
But you know what? I'd put a serious point to that. I'm actually skiving to get into work. I'm not work ready. I'm not totally work fit.
No, I know.
But to get out of the house, not to be there watching
Good morning, Ruth.
Boxed set. Well, she's out too. She's on loose swimming today. But, the darkness that there is, the rain, the weather, the awfulness, and anybody who's nursing any sort of sickness or nursing anyone in their home or whatever it is, it's just... You really appreciate company, really appreciate getting out and about.
I think you're right. And you said when you first came back, Eamonn, that it's like, when you are resting, as you will know as well, Chris, from any injury, any long-term illness, it's the hardest part of it. Recovery is the hardest part. So you sit at home and it's like you don't know what to do with yourself, and it is depressing. I mean, the point of this story is that more and more people are bunking off because they want to, but the opposite does apply. Sitting at home all the time is not good for you.
No.
It really isn't. But, officially everyone's depressed today.
Isabel, here's a story that's got us all excited, got us interested. Explain the Marks & Spencer situation.
So, apparently, and this was new this morning, Marks & Spencer's are planning to ramp up its store overhaul, and these are all-line stores, so it's not just food stores. They're going to be selling all of their bits and bobs. They're opening 20 new shops across the UK, and most excitingly of all, creating 3,400 jobs. And we're talking about places from right across the country, from the Bullring in Birmingham, the Trafford Centre in Manchester, as well as in retail parks and high streets across key cities, and 12 new food halls, including in Stockport, Barnsley and the seaside town of Largs in North Ayrshire.
See, the question is, Chris, how are they able to do this? Because we're told the high street's down, we're told there's a cost of living crisis, and yet they seem to be investing when other people aren't investing.
Yeah, so the big stores seem to be in the big shopping centres.
Yes.
And when you've got a Marks & Spencer's in those centres, it does lift it up. It does say something about the footfall and the sort of people that you're trying to bring in, attract. You know, like you said, Bullring, the Trafford Centre. These got Leeds and Liverpool. These got high footfall. So these are the full-line centres we're talking about, but actually there's still going to be a reduction in some of those centres, and they're going to invest in a food store, because actually it's the food store element that is...
It's paying the bills.
Yeah, paying the bills, and the most attractive. And if you can remember, if you're in the noughties, those very beautiful adverts, that delicious...
Oh, God, yeah.
And the way she described the food...
An Irish accent.
Yes.
Dervla was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was just...
I think they could do with a male Irish accent.
Yeah.
I think so. Somebody just in his 60s.
All right, Eamonn, sell me a Percy pig now, come on.
This isn't just any breakfast show. This is the Eamonn and Isabel breakfast show on GB News. Something like that.
Mate, I've got to tune in.
Do you know what I would say? I mean, we had a Marks & Spencer curry over the weekend, and I had a prawn cocktail, Marks & Spencer's, and I had something else. And I would just say, lay off the salt, guys. Ruth says I'm particularly salt sensitive.
COVID,
do you think
COVID.
Do you think?
No, I don't know. I haven't tried those, but yeah, I mean.
But do you think that after COVID you can be more sensitive then?
Yes. Processed food, if you buy a ready-made, they're always high in salt. Can I just read you a quote from the chief exec?
Yes.
He says the outperformance of our recently relocated and renewed stores gives us the confidence to go faster in our plan. So they obviously think they're onto something with this.
Right, but yeah, exactly.
Okay, well, let's hope other people follow suit with this one. Cancel culture at university. This is page 10 of the Times, Dawn.
Yeah, absolutely. This is Rishi Sunak is preparing to appoint the UK's first free speech czar, with powers to ensure academics and visiting university speakers are not cancelled. Now, this is growing concern that cancel culture is rife. You can't have a speaker talking about feminism because it might be transphobic. Several women have cancelled because of that one. We know that. And, you know, the thing is, university is meant to be the hotbed of debate. They're meant to be meeting people from different walks of life, different people, and debating different things. It's meant to be broadening your horizons. And now it seems to be the opposite, and we're closing things down. You can't say this, you can't do that, we can't have this, we can't learn about that. I mean, they were even at one point sort of like, you know, putting trigger warnings on great works of art and literature in case students got upset. So I can understand why, I mean, whether we need a czar to work through it and look over it, or whether we just go to universities, stop being so silly.
No, you need a czar. You do need a czar. You need to fight them at their own game.
Right, OK, Eamonn, it's going to cost money.
Well, I think you've got to...
You just send a directive. You stop being silly, stop being stupid. You send your young people to university to get out of that myopic place called home, where mum and dad are the bastion of all knowledge, to go out into the big bad world, to hear different views, to contend for your own particular perspective, and be surprised by joy when you are enlightened by somebody else's point of view that can take you on a whole new journey.
Do you know what I'd love to do? The journey I'd love to go on now? That David Hockney exhibition in London, which is it 3D and it's interactive and it's also... Have you heard about that?
No.
No.
It's brilliant.
I was getting confused with a different one on at the moment, but you're talking about the one at the Royal Academy, or where is it?
I don't know where it is, but
there was one.
London, but we should investigate it.
Okay.
He's an amazing man.
Yeah.
82 or whatever it is, and he wears lime green Crocs. My wife bans my Crocs.
He doesn't have a wife problem, does he?
No, he doesn't have...
I sort of might be with Ruth on this one, to be honest with you.
The most comfortable shoes ever.
Yeah, but they look a bit rubbish. Sorry. Sorry, Little.
Right, let's talk about early retirement. Perils of it being flagged by the Express. This is a huge problem for the UK economy. Apparently, post-COVID, we've got the biggest, what do they call it, the Great Resignation.
Yeah.
We can't get people back into the workplace.
Yeah, no, and I can understand why. So, I mean, basically what they're saying, when you think about it, when you're young, and when I say young, I'm talking about in your 20s and 30s, one of the great drivers is that, I'm going to really work hard, earn a lot of money. When I get into my 50s or 60s, I'll retire on a lovely, pot. And what they're saying here is that actually, no, it's an early retirement stopped before high levels of cognitive impairment and a slow memory can be found. This is the latest research. So that the benefits of retirement, relaxing, enjoying yourself, are outweighed by the costs, a potential rise in dementia. But I think, when I was reading it, I was going to think, well, it depends what you call retirement. So you might retire from your 9 to 5, if there is such a thing. But it doesn't mean you stop social interaction. It doesn't mean you stop engaging with the world. It doesn't mean you stop taking on real hard-line issues and keeping your dendrites firing. You don't need to sit back in...
The biggest impediment to retirement is running out of money.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that would be
I think people underestimate how much old age is going to cost them.
Yeah.
Well, there was a survey recently that, I think it was like you need something like £60,000 a year to enjoy a comfortable retirement, which is an awful lot of money.
Yeah.
But it's basically keep your brain occupied, keep going, do a hobby, get out and about, don't cut yourself off, don't sit in front of the telly.
I'm lucky
unless
that
you're watching this.
what Chris described is, I thought that would be the dream. I'd go on cruises and things. First of all, you can't afford them. Secondly, I really enjoy my job. I really enjoy what I do, and I'm very blessed. We are very, very lucky with what we do by and large.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you were in some sort of particularly, your body tells you for a physical job, you just can't do it anymore.
If you're mining, cracking up the roads and stuff.
I have two brothers who are carpet fitters, and one of them's a year younger than me, and I couldn't do what he does.
No.
I couldn't do it at all.
Although then again, I spoke to one of my guys, my golfing partners. His dad, 82, still works on a farm and is absolutely heaving and chucking things around. And he's 82. And his wife passed away, but he still gets a load of pleasure in working with his hands and toiling the fields, etc. So,
do you know? I always, every time you talk about, I used to be a farming reporter. I just respect, round of applause for the farmers.
Absolutely. Oh, every time.
Yeah.
Right, should we talk about the heir and the spare? However, we've got time. I mean, a bit of a strange front page from
Do we have to?
Yeah, come on.
I just thought we we're going to have a royal Harry 3-day. Harry envied Will's sausage. Now, we all know... Harry has written quite a bit about various sausages in his book, hasn't he? Frozen ones, circumcised ones. And because this is a real sausage. This is the fact that Harry is now allegedly moaned when he was a kid and he only got 2 sausages for breakfast, where big brother William got 3 sausages. And this is an interview with our Paul Burrell.
Is it a serious story?
Yes. Yeah, he's upset about that.
It's sibling. It's the origins of sibling rivalry.
But why would you differ? Did this happen once, or did this happen all?
Less than my son because she's younger and smaller.
It's much smaller. Much smaller.
Yeah, I think that's the point, isn't it? If a child is smaller, you give them slightly less. But Paul Burrell is insinuating this whole sibling rivalry breakdown between the 2 brothers is based on a sausage.
Oh dear.
It surprises what Scars want. But anyway, on this Blue Monday, thank you two for making it a sort of bright yellow or orange or whatever it is.
Like a Hockney exhibition.
Thank you both very much indeed. Tell us where the Hockney exhibition is.
I looked it up. I got it wrong. It is the Light Room in King's Cross, apparently, and coming out next month.
See, that could be a wee morning out for us. It could be.
Team outing.
Dawn and Chris, thank you both very much.
Thank you very much.
Good day. Thank you. Parents are sharing concerns over how online gaming poses safety risks to children.
Yeah, over the past decade, video games have introduced more social elements with fears that lockdowns pushed more children to seek friendships online. Well, Doogie Beattie has been looking into it.
They have everything. So whenever I was going, Daniel, what do you want for Christmas? And he's like, there was nothing that he didn't have. And a PlayStation was. Genuinely, the only thing that I could think of that wee boy didn't have, and Stephen went, let's just let him get it.
Christina McConnell is a parent like so many others across the UK, questioning the gifts they bought for their children at Christmas. Online gaming is now changed. Colin Stitt of Unique Safeguards explains.
But essentially, gaming now looks like connecting with other people, whether it's friends in our school, down the street, bringing people together, and actually playing against people right across the world. So actually, online gaming has become the new social frontier, connecting with others and playing against others.
Louise Marks is a parent that is aware of this and worries for her children's social skills.
Our children don't do relationships the way that we done relationships, because they do relationships through virtual. Like ours, they play online, they do virtual, but you're not seeing that person's facial expression.
Just how long do our children spend online, and do they interact with all other gaming participants?
On the weekends, maybe 10 hours a day. I don't really talk to them, so I'd talk to my friends if they're in a game, but I wouldn't really talk to people who I don't know, so I just turn my microphone off and just play.
With all social and gaming platforms, they are open to security breaches, and parents should be aware of the risks.
As a parent, it's really easy to become overwhelmed, isn't it, about actually what these games are, the risks that are involved with it. And fundamentally, it's really important as parents that we look at participating in what our children and young people do online. So when we give them access to consoles, when we give them access to tablets and devices to play these games on and to be able to connect over the internet, it's really important that we don't abdicate that responsibility, that we participate, that we engage in open conversation with our children and young people about the risks, but also that we utilise the benefits of safety settings on these platforms, that we look at the parental controls, and that we discuss these risks with our children and young people, and also find content that's suitable. Gaming content that's suitable for our children and young people to play is really crucially important.
Children should always be aware not to engage with those hiding behind the game.
Anonymity in these games also can create, in the same way it can on social media, that actually users can be anonymous on these platforms and look to build relationships and build rapport with children and young people, and that can be exploited and again misused, and again that's where those who maybe have a sexual deviant interest in children and young people can then use to exploit them for other purposes.
Dougie Beattie, GB News, Belfast.
Much indeed. Is it a problem to you? Is it a concern for you with your children? Let us know what way you're involved in the gaming world.
We are going to be talking about wild swimming just after 9:15. Does that tickle your fancy?
Now, it depends how wild this is.
I mean, we're talking in
with
the
clothes
depths
or with
of winter. Oh, well, with swimwear on.
Okay.
It's not like flashing.
We'll be taking the plunge after the weather update.
Hello, very good morning to you. It's a cold week ahead, and with that we are likely to see some snow, but also quite a bit of winter sunshine around too. If we take a look at the bigger picture, and we've got cold Arctic air coming down from the north, and it's this that's leading to our temperatures being on the low side. Notice also this weather system, it's this that brought the wet and wintry weather for some across southern southeastern parts. But as we go through the morning, that is going to clear away. Where we had any wet surfaces overnight, those have frozen, and so there are some icy patches to watch out for this morning if you're taking to the roads. Otherwise, and there'll be some wintry showers across the eastern parts of England today, and plenty of snow showers feeding in across Scotland. But for many, it is going to be dry and also largely sunny. Despite the sunshine though, there will be a cold feel to things. Temperatures down a degree or two compared to yesterday. Some places remaining below freezing, most places getting into the mid-single figures Celsius. Little change as we go through the evening. Still some snow showers across Scotland, otherwise largely clear skies. But through the night, we are going to see some showery rain, sleet and snow starting to push into the southwest. We are likely to see the snow turning a little bit heavy at times. Bit of uncertainty as to how much snow there will be, but it could be a bit impactful as we go through the early hours of Tuesday. Tonight's looking even colder than last night for quite a few spots. Could be quite a harsh, widespread frost first thing in the morning. As we go through the day itself though, and still some snow showers feeding in across parts of Scotland. For many it's largely dry, perhaps a touch cloudier than today, but it's in the south where we're going to see a wintry mix as some showery rain, sleet and snow pushes in from the channel. Need to keep up to date with the forecast with regards to how much snow there'll be. Could cause some problems as we go through the daytime. Temperatures tomorrow are going to be similar to today, so again, a very cold feel to things, despite the fact that there'll be quite a bit of sunshine around. The wintry weather continues as we go into Wednesday. I think Thursday at the moment looks like it's going to be drier, but the cold weather continues as well. Not until Friday, really, that we see temperatures rising. See you later.
This year on GB News, we've got brand new members in the family.
Join us. Across the entire United Kingdom, we cover the issues that matter to you. GB News will always stay honest, balanced and fair. We want to hear whatever is on your mind.
And we don't talk down to you.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you. Britain's watching.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Join me, Lawrence Fox, on GB News. Frank, fun, fearless and sometimes serious. Much as I love a Friday night punch-up, what I really want is a battle of ideas. I want to look at things differently. I want to hear different voices and engage with your unique experiences. Every Friday at 7 p.m. on GB News.
I'm Michael Portillo. Join me on GB News on a Sunday morning for topical discussion, debate, arts and culture, and sometimes even ethical dilemmas.
I don't always agree with you, Michael.
Michael Portillo, Sundays on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Dubes & Co. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Dubes & Co.
Hello there, it's Eamonn Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move. If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and TuneIn apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
The guy went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions. I have no time for cultural totalitarianism. We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
The Prime Minister prepares new police powers to crack down on eco-protesters.
Hello there, very good morning to you. It is 9 o'clock on this Monday, the 16th of January. You're tuned in to Breakfast on GB News with Eamonn and Isabel.
Here's what's leading the news this morning. The Prime Minister will give the police new tools to stop disruption by groups like Extinction Rebellion and Just Stop Oil. Rishi Sunak will say the legislation's aimed at cracking down on guerrilla tactics.
Ministers will push for schools to allow classes for GCSE and A-level pupils if unions announced today that teachers will go on strike.
A 22-year-old man's been arrested on suspicion of attempted murder after the drive-by shooting in central London on Saturday. 4 women and 2 girls were injured.
Marks & Spencer has announced plans to open up to 20 new stores right across the country. The proposals are predicted to create over 3,000 jobs. So let's get into politics. In the top story this morning, the Prime Minister will announce an expansion to police powers, and this basically would give officers the ability to stop protests and disruptions before they actually begin.
Yeah, absolutely. He'll claim that he's answering calls from police chiefs who are asking for clarity on how to tackle so-called guerrilla tactics by eco-protesters.
He spoke yesterday, and the Policing Minister, Chris Philp, responded to claims this was a crackdown on the right to protest. This is what he had to say.
Of course, we, as a government, fully respect the right to protest, but that does need to be properly balanced with the right of the general public to go about their day-to-day lives. And where some of these protesters have been deliberately trying to ruin the lives of their fellow citizens, we think that is not acceptable. But it's possible to protest while at the same time allowing ordinary citizens to go about their daily lives.
Well, joining us now is our political reporter, Olivia Utley. I mean, they might say that, but lots of objections to this introduction of this amendment to the Public Order Bill. I mean, it's people saying, how can the Prime Minister criticise the Chinese and their behaviour in Hong Kong and then want to curb the right to protest here in the UK?
Yeah, it's a difficult one, and certainly the Prime Minister is going to face attacks from both sides. The sort of libertarian right wing of his party, the Trussites, say, who will be protesting against this from a sort of free speech angle. The right to protest is very important. Then you'll have left-wingers who will come at it more at the, Extinction Rebellion and Just Stop Oil have a point. They should be allowed to make themselves known. The Prime Minister will claim, as you mentioned there, that it's for the sake of police chiefs. And actually, there is quite a lot to back that up. Police chiefs last year found it very, very difficult when there was slow walking protests on the roads, and that they weren't sure whether that came under the definition of serious disruption. So they didn't know whether or not they were allowed to take those people off the roads, which, left them in a very difficult situation because the people who were caught in traffic jams across the whole of London were furious about it. So Rishi Sunak will claim this isn't at all about quashing the right to protest, it's just about clarity. But whether that will stick in Parliament...
Well, there's such things as vote winners and vote losers, really. To the electorate, to the people watching and listening to us this morning, I reckon if we ran a poll today, they would say these protesters are a pain in the backside and there's a time and a place for everything, and they'd be very much in favour of this. So certainly he's playing to the gallery on this, but can he get this sort of thing through the House and through the Lords?
Well, exactly. This is clearly the calculation that he's made, that this is going to be popular among the ordinary people. Obviously, there is a problem with the Lords particularly, but in the House of Commons, it's easy to forget that the Conservatives do have big majorities still, even if Rishi Sunak doesn't feel like the most powerful Prime Minister. And as you say, with the public support, you'd expect the vast majority of Conservative MPs, even with a couple of libertarian exceptions, to throw their weight behind this because they know that their constituents will probably back it. So it should get through without too much hassle.
Although Baroness Chakrabarti, of course, a Labour peer, being very vocal this morning, saying this draconian bill would treat peaceful dissent as effectively terrorism. So she is unimpressed. Someone was saying to us, it was Leon Emirali, wasn't it, this morning, that this was perhaps an attempt to try and make the Prime Minister look tough, that he's got a problem as he looks quite weak. He's being held over a barrel, isn't he, by the unions. This morning we're hearing more about teaching strikes. They're getting underway in Scotland and we're expecting to hear about some in England as well. What's he going to do about that? Because lots of parents are very upset about that.
Yes, and he's certainly in a very difficult position there, which would suggest that perhaps he is trying to look tough on a different front. The situation that we've reached with the teachers is that ministers are now essentially begging teachers to go to work, at least to teach GCSE and A-level pupils, and at least to make sure that they're able to do their exams. But ministers have no leverage on the teachers because we know that this minimum service legislation, which has been much talked about, if it ever gets through the House of Commons and House of Lords, which is quite a big if because there's a lot of pushback, won't be getting through until the summer, which is far too late. So all that ministers can really do is sort of ask teachers to go into work. Then on the other strike front, Rishi Sunak's facing a cabinet split on the NHS strikes. We're now at the point it seems that Steve Barclay, who previously has been sort of the bogeyman in all of this, is pushing for pay rises for all NHS staff apart from doctors, and Jeremy Hunt and Rishi Sunak are pushing back. But when you've got such a high-level cabinet split over this, and when the NHS staff think that the health secretary is on their side, it's hard to see how Rishi's going to get his way.
Yeah, but you know, with 1 minute there's playing to the gallery we're talking about, and then there's the next minute the reality of the coffers being bare. We've got this fuel duty rise coming in, not at all being popular. I mean, you can say, you know, measures against these protesters, or people will like that. They're not going to like extra fuel duty.
No, they're certainly not going to like extra fuel duty. I used to work at The Sun, and every time there was the threat of extra fuel duty, The Sun mounted a huge campaign, and every single time ministers backed down. So there's going to be enormous amounts of public pressure on this, and we can't be certain that it'll even go ahead.
Yeah, well, Labour already sniffing a bit of weakness on that, and they're pushing that this morning, saying there's headroom to try and drop that.
A really scary issue, though, we're about to talk about now, was that shooting in London on Saturday. And I think the idea, when you look at what happened in Liverpool on Christmas Eve and the murder of that beautiful girl, Ellie, people are frightened, and people are thinking, you know, who has got control of these streets? Law and order, again, it must come back to people. People are frightened about this, and have the government got a grip on this?
Well, absolutely. And I was in Birmingham yesterday for Camilla Tominey's show, talking to members of the public about what they thought was their biggest concern of 2023. And yes, we heard inflation, yes, we heard small boats, but what I kept hearing again and again was crime. And the Conservatives have had a reputation for being tough on crime, but when you see these horrific crimes taking place, it's really hard to believe that the Prime Minister has a grip on the situation, which is another thing which could be trouble for him when the election comes round.
Olivia, thank you for your perspective, your take on that, because a man has been arrested and the charge is suspicion of attempted murder after that shooting. Saturday afternoon, 6 people injured, including a 7-year-old girl who remains in a critical condition.
Well, here's a former police officer, Graham Wetton, who told us earlier about the difficulties of policing gun violence in the UK.
Again, building your trust and relationships with communities to get the information about either people carrying knives or carrying firearms or holding firearms illegally, and then the propensity or the capacity to go out and actually use them, and actually using that information to try and prevent it.
Graham, but the thing that gets me is that there seems to be a confidence. Either the people who are using, and we have been down this, as Isabel said, with knife crime before, that they use knives with impunity, or they've got a defence about this. Is the defence for using a gun the same as it would be for using a knife? Well, you know, I had it to protect myself.
Yeah, similarly. And we see it a lot with gangs involved in organised crime, be it drugs or whatever criminality they're involved in. It's actually to protect what they've got, protect their area, protect whatever criminal activities are taking place, so they get them to actually protect themselves against other criminals.
Well, for the latest on this, let's go to our reporter Theo Jacumba, who joins us from Euston. A big manhunt was underway. They were looking for a particular car in relation to this, and the police have now got a man in custody.
Yes, that's right. So here on Saturday afternoon, a memorial service was taking place for Sarah Sanchez, 20-year-old, who died from leukemia. And at the same time, it was a memorial for her mother, who died in the same month. As you've just mentioned, a Toyota has been looked for, a black one, around 2019 registration. But as you've mentioned as well, a man was arrested yesterday in Barnet just before 4 p.m. And in terms of the injuries, what we know at the moment is that 4 women were injured. A 48-year-old lady has sustained potentially life-changing injuries, and 2 children were also injured. A 12-year-old who sustained a leg injury. She's been treated in hospital, and she was actually discharged yesterday afternoon, and she's expected to make a recovery. And just one other person as well, a young 7-year-old girl remains in a stable but life-threatening condition. Now, in terms of the Metropolitan Police, they're saying if anyone has seen anything or heard anything, please do get in touch. In terms of this area itself, there are houses, flats here, and the schools, and we're right opposite to Euston Station. So it's a busy area here in central London.
Very much indeed for the update.
I just want to bring you a good piece of policing news here. as well. And this is from a GB News viewer, Keith James. Keith, thank you very much indeed. And he's seen something that Durham police have released. And let's have a look at this now. So, well, are we doing the headlines and then we doing... No, that is there. And so what you're seeing there is Durham police, there they have an escort, 4 mounted police officers there, and they are escorting young Harry there. They call him PC Harry. Harry's had a truly awful time recently, and we heard how much he loves his new Christmas present, his own little motorbike there. It's an electric police bike. We had to pay him a visit. So he led us around his street in full uniform because Harry wants to be a policeman. Isn't it lovely? Let's just run that again so we see this bike that he's got.
God,
the
that
full
must have cost
uniform.
a pretty penny.
The bike?
Yes.
Yeah.
Good Christmas present.
It is a good Christmas present, but absolutely. So well done, Durham Police, Durham Roads and Armed Policing for forming that escort for young Harry there. So, and thank you, Keith James, for making us aware of that on social media at Eamonn Holmes if you want to tweet and get in touch with that.
OK, let's bring you up to date with the rest of headlines this hour. And the retailer Marks & Spencer's announced its plans to open 20 new shops across the UK. The store overhaul is said to create over 3,000 jobs. The company also plans to open 8 stores in shopping centres like Birmingham or Manchester and 12 new food halls in places like Barnsley or Stockport.
I think it's Barnsley and Stockport, Manchester and Birmingham, as opposed to either or. Look at that snow scene there. And if you're a driver, you're going to be urged to watch out for icy conditions as the day ploughs on. The Met Office has issued yellow warnings for ice across the UK until 10 a.m. this morning.
A British woman's died in an avalanche whilst trekking in the French Alps. Local authorities say she was taken from the mountain by rescuers with a helicopter, but they were unable to save her life.
After the break, we're going to be taking you on a swim. We're going to be talking about open water swimming and asking a professional, why do they do it?
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store. You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch.
You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh my goodness me! And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
The guy went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions.
I have no time for cultural totalitarianism.
We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
It's something that you would never want anyone to suffer.
I didn't know what channels there were. I didn't think I'd be believed.
I must have weighed about 7 stone and I'm 5'8".
My instincts was to sort of cover this up. I mean, clearly that was a mistake.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m, where I'll be joined by 2 of the country's top comedians as we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight. If it's a big story, we'll be covering it, I guarantee, but we'll also have some fun along the way. That's GB News Headliners at 11 p.m. We won't put you to sleep, unlike some of the other paper review shows out there. So join us, 11 p.m, 7 nights a week.
See, I think something like we're going to talk about what's called open water swimming now, and I would have thought, well, who does that?
Nobody.
Well, 3 million people apparently. 3 million people. And that's just in England.
Is that right?
Yeah.
That's an awful lot. Well, apparently, the script says it's fun. I question that.
Well, it wouldn't be fun for me
because it's challenging. Well, you can't
I can't swim. I can't swim.
Well, that's not a good idea then. But doctors are warning that current cold temperatures could actually lead to death in some open water situations. So lots of warnings about this at home as you're watching, but you can do it safely, and lots of people choose to do it. So we're going to talk now to founder and publisher of Outdoor Swimming, Simon Griffiths, about exactly why. I mean, there you are all wrapped up warm, but you've actually just been for a swim, haven't you?
I have, yes. Good morning, thank you.
Good morning.
I've just swam in the river that you can see behind.
And what is that river behind you? Where are you?
So that's the Thames. We're just outside of London, just a couple of 100 metres upstream of Teddington Lock.
Yeah.
Between Richmond and Kingston.
I know exactly where you are. We know where you're Teddington Lock. There used to be television studios at Thames Television. Used to be there at Teddington.
Yes. We're almost opposite the television studios where they used to be.
Yeah. And the lock. That's there itself. Now I think of the lock, and I think of the water and the way it flows there. And the thing is, straight away, Simon, is why take the risk? I know we're going to talk about all the positivity of this, but immediately, I mean, if my kids or someone I knew wanted to be involved in this, I would think, well, go to a swimming pool, go to somewhere where it's controlled, where there are lifeguards. Why is it worth taking the risk?
Okay, I mean, I think you're right that if you don't have much experience of swimming outdoors, that the swimming pool, is a good place to start. But if you're a confident swimmer and you've understood the risks and you've looked at how to keep yourself safe, then the risk is actually very small when you're swimming outdoors. If you take the right precautions and you swim with other people, and you know what you're doing, and you can swim quite safely, and then you can enjoy it for what it is, being outside in nature and experiencing getting in the river.
I mean, you talk about it being safe and you can see the precautions being taken there, but there's no chlorine, is there? I mean, I was always told, don't swim in the Thames, it's filthy, you can get Biles disease and all sorts of other things. I mean, do you have to take protections in that respect?
So it's obviously, we do worry about what comes in, and we know that the Thames water does sometimes spill sewage into the river, and it's not very pleasant. So we do tend to pick our times to swim. We know that if there's been a lot of heavy rainfall, that there's more chance there's going to be sewage in the water, so we wouldn't swim then. And for example, today I didn't put my face in the water. I just swam breaststroke, kept my head out of the water. So there is a risk there, but we've been swimming here for years, and very rarely do I hear about people getting problems.
Let's concentrate on the positive side.
There is a risk.
Let's concentrate on the positivity with it. So why do you do it? What are the benefits? And I was just amazed to hear that there's 3 million people in England alone. I do have to say, Simon, I increasingly find people who talk about this, who do it in various places, in reservoirs and in the wild sea and things, for instance. What are the benefits?
I think that there's an immediate... the immediate benefit is that it just makes you feel great. Just being in the, I love being in the water, and I think anybody that swims just loves that experience of being in the water. And then, especially when it's a little bit chillier in the winter, you feel quite. It's quite empowering to see the river in this condition and know that you've swum in it, and it's very positive. It's very empowering to think that you've looked at what the conditions are there, and then you've gone out and you've got in there and you swim and you've dealt with it, and it kind of sets you up for the day. Makes you feel very positive and optimistic about it. It's a big lift, I guess, at the beginning of the day to get you going, and there's a big social element to it as well. I don't know if you saw on the footage we did this morning that there's always other people to swim with. We always stop and have a chat afterwards, and so it's social, it's healthy, it's a little bit exciting, it's a little bit challenging. So it just brings a lot of positivity into your life in many ways.
There you go, fantastic. I'm not sure I'm a convert, but I definitely admire it, I have to say, watching that. I do think, and you do look quite cold now.
I would love to bring you out to the river.
Well,
I'm a bit chilly now. We swam this morning. We were only in for about 5 or 6 minutes, but it takes a bit of time to warm up afterwards.
Okay.
It's like people, Simon, who have these cold baths or cold showers in the morning or ice baths or whatever. So it does seem to be all the rage in terms of what it can do for your blood pressure and your circulation and all sorts of things. And you certainly look a healthy embodiment of all of that. Thank you very much indeed for your time and for explaining that.
Do you know, Eamonn, we had a doctor on a little while ago who talked about dropping caffeine, getting rid of caffeine out of people's diets because the impact it has on sleep. And he said, go and stick your head in the freezer if you want the benefits of a coffee without drinking coffee and having your sleep disrupted. And I thought, what a ridiculous idea. But this is kind of like on the same...
I thought you were going to tell me you did it.
No, I didn't, although maybe I should. But they're saying, you know, maybe this is the alternative to wild swimming. Just stick your head in the freezer. Same kind of impact, the shock and the...
Yeah, well, 3 million of you would agree with Isabel on that, and that's what you get out of it. Lovely. Have a good day, whatever you're doing. We're off to get our cozies on and jump into the Thames. We'll be back from 6 a.m. tomorrow. We hope you can join us.
And Tom Harwood is up next with the briefing. Bye-bye.
Hello, very good morning to you. It's a cold week ahead, and with that we are likely to see some snow, but also quite a bit of winter sunshine around too. If we take a look at the bigger picture, and we've got cold Arctic air coming down from the north, and it's this that's leading to our temperatures being on the low side. Notice also this weather system, it's this that brought the wet and wintry weather for some across southern southeastern parts. But as we go through the morning, that is going to clear away. Where we had any wet surfaces overnight, those have frozen, and so there are some icy patches to watch out for this morning if you're taking to the roads. Otherwise, and there'll be some wintry showers across the eastern parts of England today, and plenty of snow showers feeding in across Scotland. But for many, it is going to be dry and also largely sunny. Despite the sunshine though, there will be a cold feel to things. Temperatures down a degree or two compared to yesterday. Some places remaining below freezing, most places getting into the mid-single figures Celsius. Little change as we go through the evening. Still some snow showers across Scotland, otherwise largely clear skies. But through the night, we are going to see some showery rain, sleet and snow starting to push into the southwest. We are likely to see the snow turning a little bit heavy at times. Bit of uncertainty as to how much snow there will be, but it could be a bit impactful as we go through the early hours of Tuesday. Tonight's looking even colder than last night for quite a few spots. Could be quite a harsh, widespread frost first thing in the morning. As we go through the day itself though, and still some snow showers feeding in across parts of Scotland. For many it's largely dry, perhaps a touch cloudier than today, but it's in the south where we're going to see a wintry mix as some showery rain, sleet and snow pushes in from the channel. Need to keep up to date with the forecast with regards to how much snow there'll be. Could cause some problems as we go through the daytime. Temperatures tomorrow are going to be similar to today, so again a very cold feel to things despite the fact that there'll be quite a bit of sunshine around. The wintry weather continues as we go into Wednesday. I think Thursday at the moment looks like it's going to be drier, but the cold weather continues as well. Not until Friday really that we see temperatures rising. See you later.
Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This year on GB News, we've got brand new members in the family.
Join us. Across the entire United Kingdom, we cover the issues that matter to you. GB News will always stay honest, balanced and fair. We want to hear whatever is on your mind.
And we don't talk down to you.
The establishment had their chance.
Now we're here to represent you. Britain's watching.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online, across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
Do you not believe in prison? I don't believe in prison.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed. So I guess they've always been quite woke. That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
My name's Tom Harwood and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked. Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us. We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing! You see, amazing!
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
Join me, Nana Akue, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun. Every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512.
Virgin Media Channel 604.
Freesat Channel 216.
Freeview Channel 236.
And YouView Channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB Plus Radio.
With the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
A Section 35 order, strikes, online harms legislation, tanks to Ukraine, and Could we finally see an end to those walking protests and road shutdowns that groups like Extinction Rebellion have foisted upon the country? It's an incredibly busy week in Westminster, and we're going to explore it all after the headlines.
Good morning from the GB newsroom. It's 9:30. I'm Tamsin Roberts. Police in England and Wales could be given powers to intervene in protests before they become too disruptive. Parliament will debate an amendment to the Public Order Bill, allowing police to shut down demonstrations before they cause disruption. Human rights group Liberty says the plan amounted to an attack on the right to protest. But the policing minister, Chris Philip, says when it impacts people's lives, the police should have a right to intervene.
Of course we, as a government, fully respect the right to protest, but that does need to be properly balanced with the right of the general public to go about their day-to-day lives. And where some of these protesters have been deliberately trying to ruin the lives of their fellow citizens, we think that is not acceptable. But it's possible to protest while at the same time allowing ordinary citizens to go about their daily lives.
A 22-year-old man has been arrested on suspicion of murder following a drive-by shooting at a church in central London on Saturday. A 7-year-old girl has been left in a life-threatening condition after shots were fired from a car at St Aloysius Church in Euston. 4 other women and 1 child were injured in the attack.